right, we got Andrew Bustamante, a very interesting character.
What's up, man?
Ex-CIA agent, right? Spy, Air Force, nuclear with the Air Force.
Yeah, nuclear missiles, man.
Spy, has a website, Don't a Spy. I mean, it's a YouTube channel, Top 100 podcast. Man, it just, where to even begin?
Yeah.
But you grew up in Philly, right? Or where at in Philly?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, man, and I am ambiguously brown, and I went and grew up in all-white rural Pennsylvania. It was awkward. When I look back at where I was and I look at where I am now, I have no idea how those dots got connected.
Yeah. Where'd you live in Pennsylvania?
So the capital of Pennsylvania is actually a city called Harrisburg.
Yeah, I lived there.
Oh, did you for
Yeah,
real?
I lived in Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Yes. So my sister went to school in Lebanon.
Did she really?
Yes.
What school did she go to?
Oh, Lebanon. No, that was Lebanon.
Cedar Crest?
She went to high school, Lebanon Valley High.
Oh, Lebanon Valley High.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So she was over. Yeah, see, she was 10 minutes from me. I went to Cedar Crest, and then I ended up moving up there. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's funny. So nobody knows that city even exists, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're in grade school learning the capitals of all the states.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks of Harrisburg. It's that forgotten city between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So like Harrisburg was there, and then if you went east would be where I was, like you were going to Philly. And I guess if you went west would be like Lancaster, like where the Amishes are. Like, what was that mall called? Park City Mall?
Park City Mall.
I
think
Mall?
it's closed down now, too.
Really?
And I was late to my junior prom because I got stuck behind an Amish cart and buggy.
Oh, yeah.
It was wild.
Isn't that crazy? And they're literally on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to wait to go around them, and you got to wait for a passing lane, and they don't care.
Yeah, and they're not rude about it. They're just they're going about life at their speed and everything else. I don't know how they do it. They got to block out the whole world.
I don't know.
Amish is amazing. There's who else is out there? The Mennonites.
The Mennonites.
Super interesting culture.
That's no electric, right? That's the one.
Yeah.
I know. I would drive by. He's Rob's. He's from where we're at too.
From a small coal mining town called Hazleton, Pennsylvania.
Yes, I know Hazleton.
We're all from there. Yeah.
So now here we are, right?
Yeah.
What is it? 1,800 miles away or something?
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then he worked for NBC and Fox up there. And who was the big guy that you did?
It was the
probably
Kids for
know.
Cash.
Remember
game
that
where
Kids
the
for Cash?
Two judges went to federal prison for putting kids in a federal prison. Not federal prison. Sorry, putting them in the juvenile detention center. They got caught smoking a cigarette on school campus, and they did like a year in juvie.
Wow.
And it was all kickbacks. All kickbacks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So these judges had built like I mean, he could tell you better, but these judges would build like a rehab center for these kids, a jail for these kids, and they'd lock them up and then get kickbacks on all of it. Finally, they caught him, and he had covered the story.
Wow.
So they were putting kids away in jail for smoking a cigarette, and not just like a month.
Paid.
To get paid, to get the kid right. Did I depict that correctly?
Yeah, Judge Michael Conahan and Mark Chivarella. 30 years in prison for Chivarella, and Conahan's out because of COVID, so he's down here in Florida chilling at his pad.
That's sick, man.
Yeah.
That's sick.
That COVID thing. What's your opinion on the COVID thing?
So COVID's interesting to me, right? Because when COVID first broke, I was in the Middle East. It broke in China. And, right away I remembered, this sounds like bird flu. This sounds like Zika. This sounds like swine flu, right? We had been through so many other versions of outbreaks, pandemics. And at the time, that's all they called it, was an outbreak. And then they started calling it a pandemic. And when CIA teaches you how to look through noise, and so much, even with what we hear about today, it's just noise, right? All the way back, what happens now reminds me a lot of what happened during the Vietnam War. Why are we talking about death counts, infection rates every day when the average person has no concept of what a normal death count or a normal infection rate looks like day to day anyways, right? And the same thing was happening with the Vietnam War. They started posting death counts when nobody knew what the normal death count was for a day. So we end up having our what's known as a baseline thrown off, because there's a baseline out there, but if you don't know what the baseline is, how do you know if it's higher or lower? How do you know how much of an issue it is, right? Consider someone's heartbeat. Everybody has a different heart rhythm. We have a different pace with our heartbeat. what's the baseline? Your baseline is different than my baseline. Some people beat at 80 beats per minute. Some people beat at 55 beats per minute. If we start measuring everybody's heart rate and we start saying, oh, if you have a heart rate over 85 beats per minute, you're in trouble. Well, what if your starting place was 85? Are you really in trouble? So that's what I see is the problem with coronavirus. Is it real? Yeah, it's real. It's a real virus. Is it a special virus? I don't think it's that special. There's a whole corona family of viruses. Is it killing people? Absolutely. But is it the sole thing killing people? Or is it just a contributing factor to the death of people? That's the question I wish we were asking. That's the conversation I wish we were having.
Right. Instead of throwing out there, 200 million deaths, which with those 200 million deaths, you could go in with a cough, and if they code it as corona, they get $3K from the government, $7K from the insurance, another $3K. If they code it as that, it's a different payout. It's a different payout. And then these people dying, 99% of them all had pre-existing conditions, and that could be diabetes, that could be eating bad, whatever. To me, I agree with you. I think it's just another form of flu that we don't know how to control at the time.
Yeah, we don't know how to handle it yet, and we are at a disadvantage. The CIA and the intelligence world are all about something called information superiority. If you don't have information superiority, you don't have the advantage. When it comes to a new virus, and new anything, you don't have information superiority. So we're all starting from a disadvantaged position. And then layer on top of that, the fact that what does media have to do? They have to sell. They have to sell clicks. They have to sell reads. They have to sell subscribers. You're not going to do that by admitting that you don't know. You're going to do that by saying whatever you have to say to get someone to read or someone to click. So there's two layers between the facts and the average person. The first layer is we don't have information superiority. Even if we told you the truth would be we don't really know. The second layer is the people telling us have no vested interest in telling us the truth. They have a vested interest in telling us whatever makes us click, whatever makes us mad, whatever makes us sad.
Or gets the vote.
Man.
Yeah, one way or another. And I agree with you 1,000% with the body, because I studied a lot of that. And, my temperature is always 97 degrees. You might be 99, but you're always 99.
Yeah, perfect example.
That doesn't mean that you have a temperature.
Yep.
You might be 99.8 every day of your life forever. And it's just like the nutrition facts. They say you should eat 2,000 calories a day, 300 milligrams of sodium, whatever, 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day. But that was based off of the military back in the day.
Depends on your body type.
Right?
Yep.
Didn't they do the nutrition facts, those numbers for the military, what they needed to give to the military to keep them alive? And they based those averages off of, okay, our troops need this many calories, this much sodium, this much fat. And to this day, those recommendations that you see is based off keeping soldiers alive in war. But you look like you have a fast metabolism.
Yep.
So you might be able to eat 4,000 calories a day and not gain a pound.
And it's all different. Yep.
I might eat 2,000 calories a day and gain 20 pounds. So this average bullshit is bullshit.
So now you got me geeking out, man, right? Because you just nailed two fantastic examples. So congratulations, welcome to parenthood.
Yeah.
I know you got a 6-month-old at home.
Yeah.
So I've got
Thank you.
I've got two little ones. Every parent out there knows no two kids are freaking the same. Even if they're your own two kids, you could have twins. They're not the same kid. I have a daughter who generally runs cooler. Her body temperature is cooler by like 1.5 degrees consistently.
Which is a lot.
When it comes to what an average human body temperature is. And then my son runs hot by about 0.5 degrees. So until we learned that, we had no idea when they actually had a fever, right? The doctor, the pediatrician will be like,
Don't get me started on them.
If it's 100.1, then call us.
Yeah.
My freaking daughter never hit 100.1. She still hasn't hit 100.1. She's had a fever a dozen times. She's hot when she's at like 99.5. My son is normal at 99.5. We're not worried about him until he's like at 101.
Right.
Because the baseline, it's all about the baseline. Your body types, your endomorphs, your exomorphs, your mesomorphs, people who are big boned or big bodied versus the people who are small boned and small bodied. You're right there, right? the difference between needing 2,400 calories to sustain and maintain is different than having 1,800 calories to sustain and maintain. Has nothing to do with nutrition facts. Has everything to do with your body's individual baseline.
Right. That's why I hate PCPs. I hate it all. I hate them.
So here's something that's crazy, right? The U.S. government measures and predicts how many Americans are going to die any given year.
Really?
And it's publicly available. You just do a search. How many Americans are going to die this year? You will go to a U.S. government site. I think it might be the FDA. It might be something else. But they measure. Here's what we think. In the month of March 2021, here's our prediction for how many Americans are going to die.
See if you can find how many Americans will die in March of 2021.
Yeah, see, you're gonna find a fact.
That's
right?
crazy.
So, and it goes back.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You might have to go to DuckDuckGo for that one. I don't know if Google will pull.
Google is usually my
Oh,
go-to.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you'll find that government site. It'll go back. It goes back month by month, like a year, to show you here's how many actually died. Here's the prediction of how many will died, or how many will die. Then they've got the coronavirus number on top of that, right? They'll be like, and click this button to show corona-related deaths.
Unbelievable, right?
Well, when he pulls it up, man, you're going to see that the difference isn't like double. The difference is like 15%, 20%.
Wow.
So the real gap above baseline
Yeah.
isn't what media wants you to think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Is this it here?
You're getting there. So this isn't a government site, right? This is Statista. If you you can look up like U.S. government predictions for American deaths kind of thing. So or U.S. estimates for deaths, something like that.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting.
But you'll see, like they have here's the number of people who are going to die because of diabetes. Here's the number of people who are going to die because of car accidents. Here's the number of people that are going to die because of violent acts. And they'll lump them all together and they'll tell you here's what we anticipate. So yes, CDC is going to have it, man.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah, you're going to find it in here for sure. So now it's just a matter of breaking it down. It's not COVID specific. It's U.S. deaths.
Death forecast.
Yeah, deaths forecast.
That's insane.
National forecast.
Yeah, keep looking in there.
New week.
It shouldn't be related to COVID specifically. You'll be able to layer the COVID on top of it. But while he's looking for it,
isn't that crazy?
it is insane. And you know what? I never found that in a newspaper, an article, like a magazine.
Yeah.
I found that because CIA was like, when we were in the field, they would tell us you cannot trust local media ever, right? Some parts of the world you can't trust them because they're on the payroll of somebody else.
Right.
You got huge parts of the world, China, North Korea, Russia, where just there's a narrative that the general public is allowed to know, and then there's a true narrative that nobody's allowed to know. Here, we're a transparent country. Well, transparency's dirty underbelly is that while we're allowed to know anything, we only choose to read or we only choose to talk about the stuff that's the most interesting. Facts, not really interesting.
Yeah, they
sexy,
don't want the
scary, sad stuff,
Yeah.
super sexy. Give that to me on the front page.
Now, do you think there's any manipulation in these numbers? For instance, how do I say it like in a nicer way? So if they predict, just for example, 300 people to die from diabetes, do you think there's any push to make that happen?
You know,
I know it sounds kind of conspiracy-ish.
well, it sounds conspiracy-ish, but at the same time, it's a good, healthy skepticism, right? That's the difference. I'm a huge fan of making sure people understand a conspiracy is only a conspiracy until it's caught, right? And then it's a fact.
Right.
It might still be a conspiracy, but it's a fact. So the thing we want to stay away from is unfounded conspiracy theories.
Right.
Healthy skepticism. I trust you, you trust me, but maybe I shouldn't trust you. That's a healthy thing. That's kept people alive for centuries, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about it, I'm like, if there are absolutely situations like what you were talking about with funding for hospitals or funding for clinics or funding for state programs, right? There are places where if the incentive isn't put in place to report accurately, there's always going to be that
It's just inaccurate, and
Yeah.
that affects everything.
Yeah, and you're pooled, right? The
Yeah.
people who are in charge of reporting or the people who are in charge of measuring are always going to be incentivized to have to consider, well, what works out better for me? Because we're human beings. Human beings have survival on the mind all the time. Survival is, how do I get paid more? How do I not get paid less? How do I not piss off my boss?
Yep.
So there's a certain element of that in everything we do.
And an aspect of what you're saying also, another thing that I can't stand is, when you get your blood work done and it says, okay, your testosterone should be between this and this, your estrogen this and this, your thyroid, your T3, your T4. Well, how are you getting those averages? How are you getting those guidelines? You're taking my blood, to make it simple, my blood, Andrew's blood, Rob's blood. We take all three of our bloods. We have the average. Now this is what everybody's supposed to be.
Yep.
So now if you're high, now you're high, but maybe you've been high all your life.
Or maybe your high is totally healthy for you.
That's right. Like, because everybody's DNA is different, their makeup is different, the cells are different, and the thyroid controls everything. Everybody's thyroid is everything. Your thyroid hormone goes, you're done for.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important hormones in your body. People don't think that. But those guys, like, I see those guidelines and I'm like, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. But then, it's just this average bullshit. And it's just a bunch of people with an average, but everybody's makeup is different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether you believe in evolution or not, I don't know how you don't believe it somewhat. I mean, you look at a wolf and a dog. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly think that dog didn't somehow come from the wolf, or a cat and a lion. I mean,
or whatever it might be, yeah.
I mean, maybe it just, I don't know, somebody threw down a rock and it came, but, I mean, I don't see how you can't, see that. And, we adapt, through everything.
Exactly. So there's a term, baseline, that term that I've used a few times is an important term. And we use it in espionage, in the spy game all the time, because everything has to be measured against a baseline, whether it's information about the coronavirus, or information about how many people are going to die of diabetes, or information about whether or not your kid is a high-performing student, right? It's all about baseline. The averages, like you were saying, when you take 40,000 people and then you come up with an average and then you measure everything against the average, there's no consideration in there. There's no baselining the individual. So the way that the agency gets us past that is one of the first things they teach us how to do is assess individuals and assess information from a baseline. Because when you measure everything against the baseline, that gives you meaningful information.
Right.
If you're not measuring against a baseline, you're not. So it's easy to talk about with numbers, but let's talk about like human beings. How often have you heard that there's physical tells when someone's lying to you? How often have you heard that?
A million times.
Yeah. What are some of the ones that you hear people talk about?
Body language.
Like what?
Eye contact. Do they play with a pen when they're talking? Do they seem nervous?
Yep. None of that takes into account the human's natural baseline.
Right, because that just changed my thinking.
Yeah.
Because I went to a lot of meetings when I had the other company, and I would strictly watch body language, eye contact. Did they keep picking up a pen? We had one guy in here, and he kept going like this, and I was like, he's full of shit. Just because I would base, like, my baseline was, okay, like, does he play with the pen when he's talking about something? And maybe I would ask a question, and he would pick up the pen and play with it. So then that would tell me, well, are you nervous, or are you kind of adding to the story?
Exactly, and you don't know for sure,
right?
Because you don't have the baseline set first.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a perfect example. If you spend 2 or 3 days, you were the one just telling me a second ago about your strategy for networking, right? You just network, you hang out, you be social. Why? How does that work? You're setting a baseline for the person. That baseline is what's their normal, like, foundational self? What is their instinctive, what we call the instinctive self? The person that's not under stress, not financially pressed. Like, who is that foundational instinctive self?
That's a great point.
And then how does it change? Measure the change, and you've got meaningful information. If they fiddle with a pen all the time, how many people in high school do you remember? I remember in Pennsylvania, it was like we still had wooden pencils back in the day.
Yeah, the yellow ones.
Chew on their pencil.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the person? Not a single thing.
Right.
Do they chew because they're nervous? Do they chew because it's a test? Do they chew because they're bored? Do they choose to stay? Why are they chewing? I don't know. But if they chew a pencil all the time,
that's the baseline. I never thought about it like that.
And I might be nervous talking to that person if they don't chew a pencil.
Right.
Whereas somebody else who doesn't touch any of this stuff, I'd start talking to them, they pop a pencil in their mouth. That's going to make me nervous too.
You know what? I never thought about that. Baseline's very important.
Yeah, that's the start of it all.
I never thought about it like that. Because now, like, the person who kept picking up the pen, say I would have went and had dinner with him 3 times or hung out with him, and he's always playing with the pen. Now he comes in and we're talking, well, it's just what he always does.
Yep.
But now if I'm with him for a week hanging out and I never see him play with a pen when a pen's there when we're talking, then he does it. Then the baseline would be he's not playing for a week. He hasn't touched the pen,
Exactly
and he's
right.
had a pen in his pocket. We've talked. There's been a pen right here. Now he's on camera. We're asking questions. Now he's picking up pen.
Yep.
Well, my baseline was he doesn't touch the pen.
Yeah, and think about all
So
the
now
things.
he's doing something out of ordinary.
Think about
correct?
all the things in life that are shaped similar to a pen.
Mhm.
So you have dinner with him, he should be playing with his fork.
Right.
Should be playing with a spoon, right? You guys go out to fast food, he should be playing with a straw, right? He should be playing with a plastic spoon or a plastic fork. Like they'll fiddle with something, fiddle with their wallet, fiddle with their ring, right? They're
Because
fiddlers.
the baseline is that they fiddle with stuff.
Exactly.
So then when they
Have nothing there to touch.
So then if they do, then it's normal. But if they don't, then there's something that's happening out of the ordinary.
Right. So
But the baseline, that's wow.
and that so
Never thought about it
and
like
you can
that.
apply that because it doesn't sell, right?
But
Like,
but that's a fact though.
that's a fact. Who's going to watch the World Series of Poker with all those folks wearing their sunglasses and their crazy ass hats and their, all this stuff that looks ridiculous, but they're doing it so that no one can see their tell, so that they can observe everybody else's tell without anybody seeing their tell. You could sit them all down stark naked, and they would have exactly as much insight into each other as they would with all that craziness, because they don't know anybody's baseline. Unless they've played somebody else at the table before, multiple times, they have no baseline knowledge.
When I watched that, I would always think you probably would be better off without the sunglasses because you could fake somebody out.
If you wanted to, right? If they're all amped up because they think, oh yeah, every time somebody looks up and to the right, they're bluffing.
So the sunglasses could actually be a disadvantage
If you believe,
if you're strategically
yeah.
capable of that.
So then that brings up another kind of interesting CIA training point, right? We know that when human beings operate, when they behave, we call it operation sometimes, but behavior essentially, there's a different level of cognitive effort, mental effort that goes into different tasks. Playing poker and playing poker well is cognitively demanding. Here are my cards. What am I going to do with these? What am I going to do with the river that's out there? What are the odds of something else coming up next? Then you got to start thinking, what's that guy going to do? What's that guy going to do? What are they holding? What are the odds that they're holding? Woo, that's super demanding. You lay another level on top of that where you're also thinking, how can I fake that guy out? What happens is you have something called task saturation. Task saturation is something you want to avoid whenever you're operating, because that's how mistakes start to happen. If you've ever been why do they not want you to text while you drive? It has nothing to do with your IQ or your mental equivalency or any of that, right? It's because they don't want you to become task saturated. You're driving and you're texting and you're thinking about where you're going and you're thinking about what time it is and you've got a kid crying in the background and your wife and you are arguing. Woof, boom, task saturation, perfect setup for an accident. Totally independent of texting and driving. It's the fact that the texting is something that can be easily removed so you don't become saturated.
It's one thing that can be removed.
Yep.
Right.
Because they can't put out a law that says you're not allowed to have your kid in the backseat.
Right. So they got to pick and choose what they can do, right?
Exactly.
Even though, I'd like to take mine out of the back seat once in a while.
So that's what they're really trying to avoid is task saturation, because that's what makes people break down. All your professional athletes that are out there, your Olympic athletes, they know what this stuff feels like. Your special forces, your tier 1 operators, they know to avoid this stuff because you don't want to do that. That's why one of the reasons why your tier 1 operators will go to a staging place to decompress before they go on op.
And what does a tier 1 operator stand for?
Tier 1 is like all of your Navy SEALs, your Marine Special Operations Command, your Raiders, right? Your Delta guys, your Green Berets. They don't just like wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning at home and then grab their stuff and jump on a C-130 and then jump out of it. Like they go someplace for an intermediate period of time.
Yeah.
48 hours, 72 hours, a week. And all they do there is shut themselves off from the outside world.
Yeah.
Right? Let's reduce all of the tasks about taxes and, what am I going to do for my son's birthday? And am I going to miss my daughter's ballet recital? Let's get all that out of your head for 72 hours. Just talk about maps, guns, fitness, right? Let's just do that. And then let's get on a plane and then let's go execute.
Yeah.
Right.
We just had a guy, John Cruz, in here. He was a Marine sergeant. He became a Marine sergeant, 4 years? Usually it takes 8 to 10. He blasted through it. I mean, he's a complete lunatic. Good guy, but I mean, he's nuts. And he was they put him in the jungle for 90 days with a 80-pound backpack. And, when you would hear him talk, it was like the only thing that mattered was the mission, nothing else. And 90 days. Wait, was it 90 days?
Yeah, something like that.
90 days. In what country was he in? Do you remember? Some crazy
Someplace
country.
uncomfortable,
In the
yeah.
woods, 80-pound backpack, walking. I mean, he was all over,
Yeah.
crazy shit. And, I just remember throughout the interview, the whole thing was just the mission was all that mattered. Complete the mission, and you take care of the people around you. And, and he was he would have to jump out of like a helicopter or a plane with a parachute, but no backup parachute. They'd try to drown them for 4 minutes.
Wow.
Was weird.
How crazy.
Yeah, the drowning thing. Yeah, it was really interesting. And he reenacted how his officer above him would act, and he was just screaming into the thing, "Get down on the floor," just beating them to a pulp. But he made it, and he got out. Now he's working at the the VA, or whatever, helping. Because what do you say, Semper
Semper do
Yeah,
it.
it means like it's like a brotherlyhood. Yeah, so he missed being around his brothers, So now he's at the VA, so he can semperfy.
Yeah, of course.
But really, really good guy. Just went through a lot.
Yeah, but that's a great example of when the sergeant's yelling at him. One of the things that the sergeant is trying to trigger is that feeling of task saturation. When you're in a training environment, the way that you can mimic the stress of live bullets, the way that you can mimic the stress of being cold and dehydrated, right? The way that you can mimic a lot of that artificial stress is through saturating somebody with tasks. You have to memorize this thing, and you have to stand in this corner, and you have to be doing, jumping jacks while I talk to you, and you have to remember to talk to me in certain terms, right? Like all that stuff is that's all artificial stress designed to spike your cortisol levels in your brain so that your brain gets accustomed to operating at that level of stress, so that when you are forward deployed downrange and it's sleeting and you're soaking wet and you haven't eaten in 18 hours and you're painting a target for an incoming missile, then we have confidence that you're going to be able to execute.
And wouldn't that secrete serotonin too?
It's a whole hormonal cycle, right? Exactly.
To kind of go, it almost puts your body into like a state of battle in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because your body's trying to process the cortisol, and then it's messing with your serotonin levels, which is going to mess
and
with
the
your
dopamine.
Yep,
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Because it's not the body's natural state. The body wants to be baseline.
Right.
It wants to be like calm and relaxed. Some people have a higher heart rate, a higher natural absorption of stress than other people. Some people have anxiety attacks at the first sign of stress. Some people look for stress. They because there is such a thing as eustress, which is stress that makes you better, right? So some people seek out stress because they know it's eustress. It increases their performance. That's like an athlete.
Sense, yeah.
An Olympic athlete is looking for a fight because they want that eustress. It makes them sharper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, man.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the sports, without having that crowd and that push, imagine like the boxing, even the football, the NBA game. I mean, just imagine if you like football, basketball, you just did a great play and there's like nobody's
there.
Like, I mean, that's got to, because you don't have that push.
Yeah.
You don't get that adrenaline rush.
Well,
and
even worse,
baseline.
What happens if you're the best boxer in the world? And every boxer that gets in the ring opposite you is, you already know you're going to beat him out of the water. There's no benefit for you to push yourself.
Yeah.
But when you don't know, right? When you've watched video replay of that person just destroying other guys, or if it's females, right, in any kind of mixed martial arts, like it's the same thing. There are high-performing people who need to sit opposite high-performing people to unlock their highest potential.
To make them better. Did you find that thing?
It's all related to COVID.
Yeah.
Also, they're just blasted with COVID.
Yeah. That's how it works. That's all the...
I stopped watching the news.
Yeah.
I can't take it anymore.
That's one of the things I teach people to do, man. I teach people to take hiatuses from news. Just like I was telling you, when the guys just fall off the map, they go into a cabin. They just ignore the news. They ignore their families. They decompress.
Yeah.
There's something therapeutic about that. There's something that really sharpens the edge of your own mental performance when you can step away. So I actively teach people like, hey, take a hiatus.
Couldn't agree more, because it will ruin you, especially right now, because your whole mind process will just be trying to figure out, You hear this, you hear that, and probably, in my opinion, you know more than me, but 90% of it's just what they want you to hear,
It's the same thing said over and over again.
just in a different way.
Yep.
You know, and then back and forth, and you know, the whole. To me, it was a setup, but we'll stay away from all that. So you're in Pennsylvania, and then once you graduate high school, where do you go from there?
I went to the Air Force Academy. I was offered
Right to the Air Force.
Yeah, so I was offered a full ride scholarship out of high school. I knew that I wanted to do something military. Air Force Academy was a great opportunity for me, and it got me far away from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. yes. As we are all here far away from Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
Yes.
So then I went and relocated to Colorado Springs, and went to school there, and it was like one of those good decision, bad decision type of things, because I hated the Air Force Academy.
Why?
It was miserable, man. So it's a military school, and it's a government-funded military school, and it was just like, it is all the things that you don't, all the things that irritated me. Somebody is yelling at me and bossing me around when they have no objective factual reason, while they are better than me. They've just been there a year longer. And then I'm doing all this ridiculous stuff just because I'm a freshman. I'm running with my backpack in my left hand. I'm saying, good morning, sir, good evening, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, sir, may I ask a question, just because I'm a freshman, right? I'm being PT'd in the afternoon, not because I need it, but because that's what they do. And it's the military, right? It's the hierarchy. And you're going through what is essentially like government-approved hazing to get to the point. And then you know what happens? This is the craziest thing. You get beat for like 300 days, and then one day they're like, you have been recognized. You're no longer a freshman. Now you are a sophomore. And the people who come in on the bus tomorrow, you need to beat them. And I'm like, what? Nobody trained me to beat them. Nobody taught me. I just got beat. So now I'm just going to pass down the beating.
Yeah,
There's no intelligent growth there. That's just raw tradition. And frankly, it's pretty stupid tradition.
Is it pretty much useless?
For me, graduating from the Air Force Academy is super useful.
Right, but that first year is useless.
Well, I mean, the whole time that you're there, are you really learning leadership skills? No, man. Nobody's showing you their outstanding leadership skills by calling you stupid.
It sounds like to me that they're just trying to show you that you're a peanut.
They're trying to just tear you down. In basic training, the basic training drill sergeants, they go through some kind of ramp up and certification course for how to break someone down and build them up as a team. No 19-year-old has gone through that training at the military academies. Whether it's West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, all you military grads out there, I'm glad that you graduated. I know somewhere deep down you agree with me. And I also know that you're probably never going to say it out loud. That's cool. I'll be the one that, if I ever get to be director of the military, I will shut down all of the military academies and triple the amount of ROTC scholarships. Yeah. Because you're not teaching anybody anything about real life.
And what's the ROTC?
ROTC is Reserve Officer Training Candidates, or Reserve Officer.
So you're actually getting trained rather than just the complete beatdown.
Right. So just look at these two programs. You go to a military academy, a West Point, an Air Force Academy, a Coast Guard Academy, whatever, and then you're put into a little base. All civilians of the world are cordoned off from you. You get to go off base with permission, once or twice a month. The rest of the time, you're in a uniform inside the military rigor, right? And then somehow you're supposed to be growing as a contributing member of society. No.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly. And then as you get older and you become a sophomore and a junior and a senior, this is just college, right?
Yeah, we're not talking about the big leagues yet.
No, right. Yeah. This is college. So it's all the same ridiculousness that happens in college. People are trying to figure out how they're going to get laid. People are trying to find a way to sneak on booze. People are dealing with how am I going to pass my econ midterm? It's just college with kids, but for some reason we look the other way and we think, oh no, these kids are better than other kids. ROTC on the other hand is it's 20% military, 80% civilian life. So you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for school and have a job and show up on your own discipline to an event on Saturday at 8 a.m.
So I think that would be better, right?
And that's my argument.
Because you could beat anybody down to the point, and they might just fight through it. But if you make them get a job, pay for it, and then show up, or you got no shot, now you're actually building a
contributing
routine,
member. Yep.
like a routine, discipline,
Mm-hmm.
a schedule, and then when you're a sophomore, then you can, then it would change.
Yeah, you know something about the real world. You know how to pay a cell phone bill, right? When you're at when you're at West Point or the Air Force Academy, at least when I was there, maybe it's different now. You're not even allowed to have a cell phone until
Really?
your junior year.
Wow.
You don't have income until after 2 years. Basically, they give you like $50 a month or whatever to buy a
The fuck you
toothbrush.
gonna do with that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to have an outside job because you're not allowed to leave base.
Wow.
So I get it, but it just seems antiquated. It seems like that was the world of the 1950s and 1960s when you needed a thoughtless robot to just execute orders, right, to fly into oncoming anti-aircraft weaponry. Now we're facing a world of artificial intelligence. We're facing a world of dynamic threats, of non-state actors. You're like, following orders is not going to prepare people for that world. And the thing that's really sad, man, is I have seen people who have stuck around. The joke now is that the people who make a career out of the military, it's because they don't know how they would do it any other way. They don't know how they would apply their skills, their knowledge, their background outside, and
I
it
agree with
scares
you.
them, right?
Yep. A lot of people I know that went in kind of just went in because they didn't know what to do, and there was a stigma that, well, if I come out of the military, then I can get any job I want.
Right.
That was the stigma in high school.
Yep.
If I go to the military, no matter what it is, National Guard, Army, when I get out, I'll be able to get any job I want.
I've got skills. I'm a vet, right?
Yeah.
I can prove that I'm reliable and independent. But now,
But
where'd
to
that go?
revert to what you were saying, in 2021, now, like Elon Musk and many other people, AI is the concern. And that military thing, when you get out, you're against AI.
Well, what's interesting is like you come out now and they're not hiring you because you're a veteran.
Yeah, it's not like it was 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
they're hiring you because they ask you a couple of questions that require critical thought.
Right.
What did you do in the past that's going to help you apply your skills to this job? If you don't have an answer for that question, you're not going to get hired. Doesn't matter if you're a vet or not. Doesn't matter if you're a college graduate or not, right? If you can't think critically in front of somebody during an interview, you're going to struggle, right? But you don't see the military teaching people how to think critically. You also don't see the military during what's known as the transition period, when you're getting ready to transition out of the military and go into the civilian world. They're not teaching you how to think critically or even talk about your skills in like corporate speak. So it's this massive 200,000 vets a year transition out of active duty and into the civilian world with almost no preparation for how to be successful in the civilian world.
And you know what's funny is they talk about like the football players with concussions and what they're going to do when they leave, the boxers. What about the military, who was just in God knows what country, probably saw kids get their heads blown off right in
Terrible
front
things,
of them.
yeah.
Now you're going to pull them out and say, okay, your time's up. Here, go back to South Florida and
Figure it
I
out.
don't know, figure it out. When you were just away for 4 years out of clip, 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
seeing gruesome stuff, maybe you should have like a 6-month thing before you go out into civilian life, because I know a few guys that got out, like didn't know what to do, completely lost, and would hear a bang and would wake up. A friend of mine, actually, he woke up in the middle of the night, heard a bang, and he was having a dream, pulled out his gun and shot up his whole house. And, I mean, with his wife there.
That's
but he
terrible.
was in that
Yep.
that frame,
Mhm.
like we'll get to all the gazillion places you've been to, of being in that situation. And he got up and shot up the house. The cops came and they put him in a military jail for however long for doing that. But had they, again, taken 6 months to, re-evolve him almost into everyday society. And then how about being that the guy just spent 8 years of his life killing people for you, seeing gruesome shit that nobody should probably ever see? How about having something lined up for him?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the least you could do.
Why is it that a military nurse is out there, patching up wounds on a forward deployed airbase, and the day that they take off the uniform, they're not licensed to be a nurse in the United States?
Did you just hear that?
How does that
That's
happen?
bullshit.
Yeah, how does that happen? How is it that you're like a special, you're a police, special police for the Air Force, or you're a police officer for the Army, and then you get out of the military, and the only thing that you can even think to do is become a police officer for the civilian world. Like, you have so many skills. You have leadership skills, you have processing skills, prioritization skills, you're physically fit, right? How is it that you're not getting sucked up? How is it that places like Microsoft and Apple and Tesla haven't built funnels or pipelines with the military to say, hey, we are going to hire 3,000 vets this year, right? 1,000 from the Marines, 1,000 from the Air Force, whatever, right? We're going to do it. So we're like, that like they would benefit because they're getting reliable people. The military would benefit because their people are going to get taken care of. But Tesla's not going to reach out to the Air Force and then go through the government bureaucry cycle.
Of all the bullshit of having.
They're never going to do that. It doesn't benefit them that much.
But
so
maybe
the Air
if they
Force,
didn't have to deal with all the bullshit from the government, that they would.
If the Air Force, they need to take the initiative and reach out and say, hey, Microsoft, how would you like to take care of 1,000 of our highest, most qualified transitioning veterans this year? And we'll take away all the roadblocks. We'll take away all the hurdles.
I couldn't agree with you
more.
more.
But that.
And I bet you if Tesla did that, the cars wouldn't be delayed because you'd have people doing like you order the car, it always takes forever.
Yeah.
I bet you Apple, they would all benefit because you would have disciplined workers.
People who are used to making a logistical supply chain plan, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something the military teaches you how to do, right? People who know how to have multiple procurement sources so that you don't run out of a specific material that you need to make cell phones.
Yeah, like you're ahead of time.
You're ahead of schedule.
And again, it will go back to complete the mission. Okay, the mission is to make 10,000 Tesla Roadsters by September.
Yep.
And now you have all military guys. The only word that they know is complete mission, right? So if I'm going to bet, I would probably bet that those 10,000 get done.
Exactly.
Now you hire 10,000 guys like me, it's not getting done. I mean, it's just not, I would just pay somebody to do my work. And
so but it's one of those things that I don't understand. No, I've talked to vets who are still coming out. I've talked to vets who are dedicating themselves in nonprofit firms and in all sorts of.
And they live like shit.
Well, and they're trying to fix it. They're trying to close the gap, but there's just you can't close the gap when the military doesn't see it as a gap at all. They see it as like mission complete. I got you out. Yep. You're done. Now you're on your own.
And they live like shit. They live like shit and drink and fall into that rabbit hole.
It is. I mean, some of them do. Some veterans break out and do very well.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a perfect example of like, why aren't we doing a case study on them? Why isn't the Air Force funding a case study on Air Force veterans who now make more than $1 million a year?
Why aren't they?
I don't know. Why is it not happening?
What would be your opinion why they aren't?
Because it doesn't benefit the Air Force. Because the U.S. government argues over budgets all the time, and they don't argue over budgets because of what's right and wrong. They argue over budgets because it's politics, right? I'm a Republican. I need to win my funding for these things. I'm Democrat. I need to win my fundings for these things, right? And nobody's thinking about, well, what serves America best? They think, what serves my party best so that my party will back me for the next subcommittee, or so that my party will back me when I run again for re-election in my district. It breaks my heart that we vote to put people in charge as representation of what we believe, and then as soon as they're in that office, their incentives change. Now they don't need me to support them. I supported them once. Now what they need is their party to support them. And that's how you end up having the country that we live in now. Where I sat with my Hillsborough County rep 2 years ago, I want to say it was. She came in when I was getting my MBA. And she said, what do you want me to take back to Washington? And I raised my hand in my little MBA class. I was like, I want you to take back a campaign promise that you're going to lead the charge for for term limits for senators and for Congress people.
What's their limit now?
So Congress people have no term limit.
That's right. They have no term limit. That's right.
And here's our congressional congressperson, right? And I'm like, go back and champion the cause for term limits, because I'll vote for you for 3, 4, 5 terms. That's fine. But show me that you're willing to step down and let fresh blood come in.
Yeah.
Right? That's how our country's supposed to work.
Otherwise, you're stuck in the old times, and that's what we're seeing for us. And I'm saying this, not you. I think Trump did, whether you like him or not, you like the things he says, I'm saying this. And I'm only bringing this up just because of what factually he did. He, from what I see on paper, factual, even the places that hate him, he did more for the military, the vets, the African Americans, so on and so forth, than any other president I've seen. That's me saying that. You probably don't want to.
Well, one thing that I will say, whatever your politics are, what I liked about the Trump administration is that it put a spotlight on the problems that we're all facing. And we knew these problems existed during Obama, right? We knew it. We've seen it for a long time. But it was never the center of attention. It was always like this marginal issue. Trump put a giant spotlight like, hey,
this is what's going on.
We're a divided country. We have such strong differing views that we aren't even willing to compromise. We're not even willing to come to the table. And on top of that, we're willing to spend all of the taxpayer time and money that we're not willing to put into a study about how to make veterans successful. We are willing to put that money into shooting down each other's plans, wasting time on Capitol Hill, making sure policy doesn't get through, making sure budgets don't get approved. We're willing to spend your money to fight against things that don't help you or serve you, but we're not willing to spend that money on things that will help and serve you.
Yeah, because the lobbyists couldn't get to him.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't care about the money. I think he saw it and said, I think he didn't think he was going to win. And I think when he won and then he got in there, I think it changed him completely. And he was like, holy shit. And he just didn't care. And he was just, hey, Rocket Man. And then he goes and visits him. Mr. Trump, I don't think you should go over there. You just called a guy with a nuclear weapon, Rocket Man. Send me over. Sends him over. And what that did was, I believe, and you would know more than me, is that Rocket Man gave him respect because he had the balls to get on that plane after he called him Rocket Man and meet him face to face.
Well, it's all politics. That's whether that's what happened or whether there was something else at play. This is where it gets really nuanced in like the world of intelligence, the world of policy and politics, because everybody's got self-interests.
Yeah.
And the self-interest that Kim Jong-un has in North Korea is different than the self-interest that Donald Trump has in the United States.
Because Kim Jong-un wants to make North Korea like the U.S., like a metropolis, right?
Well, we don't know. Like, we don't know exactly what he wants because he keeps a lot of that close hold.
Right.
Right? Just like how many headlines were dedicated to talking about what Trump wanted America to be.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, right? Like,
yeah.
You just don't know. You can't, and yet somehow we're spending time and money talking about it, pontificating about this
Still
is what
talking.
he really wants.
And then spending all that money, again, whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. I like you no matter what. Don't matter to me. You know.
And that's what happens.
I just like things fair, personally.
Yeah.
But,
and transparent.
But now, you already impeached him once over some bullshit. Now you're going to, he's already out, and now you're going to spend, again, we go back to this, you're going to spend our taxpayer money to impeach him a second time. That costs money.
And when are you going to do this? In the middle of a pandemic with tens of thousands of people, having negative test or positive test results for a pandemic that we don't understand. And at a time when it's record-breaking unemployment, America needs their government. We need our government to focus on the things we need them to focus on. It killed me. I was so frustrated with that second impeachment. You're just wasting my time and my money.
Shouldn't they be in there figuring out Corona, AI, veterans? I mean, a fucking laundry list of things that they should be doing. You already impeached the guy once. Yeah. You screwed him on the mail-in votes. He did not get 80 million more votes than this guy. The guy doesn't even know what day it is. I'm saying it, not Andrew. That's me. There is no fucking way that this guy won. If you think he won, please go see a therapist. And it's not that even if you were for Biden, great. If you were for Trump, great. Whoever you were for, there is no way that this guy, who even after the banger of banger probably speed test. What's the one for ADHD that they all take? Adderall.
Oh, yeah.
Nice shot of Adderall. Even after all that, there's no way that man got more than Obama. No way. So, I mean.
And this is one of those things that's interesting, too, right? Because, I respect every American's opinion.
Yeah.
And we all get our information from somewhere. But I want to know what was the baseline that you believed before the election happened. And how much has your baseline changed since the election happened, right? If you're pro-Trump before the election, that tells me you're going to be pro-Trump after the election no matter what the outcome is, right? Trump and Trump's campaign wasn't targeting pro-Trumpers. Biden's campaign wasn't targeting pro-Biden people. All that campaign money isn't designed to attract their base. The base is secure.
It's already there.
Yeah, you could spend $0.
Yeah.
The base is going to vote for you. All that money goes into like the 15 or 20% that are still deciding. All that money goes into telling them whatever they think that undecided group needs to hear to swing them one way or the other. And then on top of that money, the campaign money, you've got media money.
Oh, yeah. It's a never-ending cycle.
It's just a battle. Everybody is fighting for that information superiority. They want to fight to be in your brain so they can tell you what to do. And once they know what you're going to do, then they can take it to the next step. They know what you're going to buy. They know where you're going to be. They know what you believe because they've kind of conditioned you to believe that way. It's a Pavlov's dog situation on a larger scale.
I'll get off the politics after this. Just one more question. I don't know if you can. How did they not know that Nancy Pelosi had investments in the Dominion machines? That she's behind it. She has investments in the machines. So that's a fact.
So what's interesting to me is that what gets shared, what doesn't get shared, where investments are, where investments aren't, like that's a whole industry in and of itself. That's kind of smoke and mirrors, right? Like I know I have investments. I don't know where every % of every one of my investments is. Mm-hmm. I know some of them are in mutual funds, and some of those mutual funds are divested into something else that I have no idea about, right? So I might be as principled as I want to be about parenthood and childhood and whatever my personal values are. For all I know, I've got some investment out there that's contrary to my beliefs. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
That happened for Nancy Pelosi or for anybody else who they claim so-and-so is making money off of that and such, right? Yeah. The Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, it's everywhere,
Clintons. You want to talk about organized crime? That should be your next mission.
Oh man,
I don't know if you want that one though.
So, but that's my point. My point is just why that's a way that it's important to understand that information is cultivated, and unless you go out there and cultivate it yourself, you're not getting anything raw. You're getting something that someone else has shaped.
Right.
And that's what CIA is all about. CIA is all about let's get out there and get the facts. Let's get the raw intelligence. And then let's shape it ourselves and feed it to the president, the executive branch, right? So that's how it works. The goal is just to make sure that CIA's information is vetted, it's accurate, it's unbiased. That's their objective. That's their mission. It's what makes them different than a news source. Right.
So now you finish the Air Force, and you did 7 years, and what were you doing? Nuclear? You were doing some serious shit with them.
Well, it sounds cool, but it's way less boring in real life. Yeah.
Really?
So I graduated from the Air Force Academy. I get invited to stay at the academy for a year. I was a fencer. Like
what's that mean?
Fencing, sword fighting.
Oh.
So I was a varsity fencer at the Air Force Academy, which I would have never thought was going to happen. I'm sure my parents never thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated from the Air Force Academy with like a 2.4, not a good student. Right?
Yeah.
But the Office of Athletic, the athletic department for the Air Force Academy was like, hey, we want you to stay, be part of our Golden 24 program, and we want you to teach here at the athletic department, help our students stay fit, help our students teach gym classes, be an assistant coach for fencing, travel the country, and help us recruit future athletes. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds sweet.
Yeah.
And then after that, then I went into space and missiles and learned how to hold a nuclear launch key around
You went into space and missiles?
Around my neck, and they sent me up to Montana, and I sat there in a hole underground, hoping that I was never going to have to use the key sitting around my neck.
So they just had you underground?
That's how it works, man. It's a little bit... it's not much more complicated than that. You sit underground, and then there's an alarm, and there's this 1950s era computer system.
Really?
And the alarm goes off about every 30 to 45 minutes, and it's called an emergency action message, and EAM comes across, and you have to take it out, and that's your job. You take it out, you decode it, and then when you decode it, it tells you whether it's an exercise or the real thing, and then you take the action that it's telling you to do. And that's how they maintain readiness. It's called...
So you get that beep. Okay, and then it's kind of like an Amber Alert type of thing?
Yeah, or like any notification on your phone.
Okay, like a notification, and then you de-encrypt it, okay, and then it tells you what to do?
Mm-hmm. And then you take action. And you're always hoping that the action you're taking isn't going to set the missiles launched, right?
Yeah.
But they don't need you to be... They don't want you to be a conscientious objector.
Right.
So they don't want you to know if it's a real message or not a real message. So you just take the action. You're just a robot. You're a cog. EAM comes in, decode it, take the action. 35, 45 minutes later, EAM comes in, decode it, take the action.
And what's EAM?
emergency action message.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
You just did say that. I'm
Yeah.
retarded.
No, but that's how it works. And it's the most mundane.
Because you never know if it's real or not. You
And-
just do what your like proctal is, like the proctal that you were taught you do,
Mhm.
but who knows if it's actually
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
you're down there for, depending on the base, you might be underground for 24 to 72 hours
straight.
and it's you and a partner and with one bunk. So you hot bunk like in the Navy. So you try to sleep for 8 hours, but every 35 minutes or so
You're
there's
hearing
this blazing alarm.
and you're waking up. Now, how long did you do that for?
So I was at Montana. I was in Malmstrom for 2 years, and the benefit of that job, totally frank, right? It was a difficult, boring job. The people were cool because we all did the same boring, terrible job. We partied hard when we got out of there.
I
right?
bet after being underground like that.
But
man.
you get the highest level security clearance in the country.
wow.
You get a TS,
So that might be worth
a
it.
top secret special compartmented information, Cat 6 and Cat 12, which basically means, TSSCI with the highest nuclear thresholds. You know where our nukes are, where they're pointed, what their warheads are, what they're carrying, right? So
So the higher up is the more information you know.
So when CIA found me, they found an Air Force Academy graduate, an Air Force veteran with a Cat 6, Cat 12 TSSCI.
Because you were down there in Montana and you were able to handle
So-
that. But I bet you still have dreams of that thing going off at
Oh,
night,
yeah,
right?
man. So their whole hiring process was just cut in half for me because they were basically like, look, this guy checks all these lists. All he has to do is not be an idiot during the interview.
Yeah.
And, thankfully I wasn't.
So then they pull you into the CIA.
Right.
Okay, now when they take you into the CIA and they come to you, what's that like getting? Like the testing, I don't know what you're allowed to say and not say, but what is the process of going from Air Force,
Mhm.
stuck underground for, days at a
Days.
clip, to then being recruited by the CIA. So the CIA comes to you.
And everybody's different. Some people, the agency comes to them. Some people, they go to a physical agency source or an agency recruiter. Some people apply in the cold online, right? It's different for everybody, depending on what the needs of the agency are at the time. But for me, coming from the military, I fell right into a normal recruitment funnel that any civilian would fall into. The only difference is I came in with half of the must-haves checked off. If they go and find Joe Blow who works at Goldman Sachs as a low-level accountant or whatever, he doesn't have a clearance, right? He doesn't have a background that proves that he's drug-free and alcohol-free and whatever else like I did, right? They actively recruit Mormons out of the Mormon church because they have things on the list that you can just check off, right? Like, for sure a Mormon's been on a mission. That means they've probably been overseas, which means they probably have a language. Their faith is very strict, so like with good confidence, they probably haven't done drugs, they probably haven't done booze. You can't, they're probably not married with kids, or they are married, depending on the age. They are married and they do have kids, which makes them perfect because now you have they have dependents that they have to take care of.
Right.
So the agency is very much like pre-scripted when it comes to hiring who they want to hire. But I mean, to answer your question, I came in via military, but I fell right into the same recruitment funnel as other people. I had to go through multiple rounds of interview. We go through more than one round of interview. I can say that for sure without crossing any
Now,
red
is that
lines.
is it a mind fuck interview?
One of them is.
Yeah.
The first one is just kind of we call it butt sniffing.
Yeah,
it's
feeling you out type of thing.
Yeah, like two dogs that meet at a dog park.
Yeah.
It's worth going up to the strange dog and sniffing their butt to see, are they worth playing with or not? So that's kind of how the agency does it. Can you carry a conversation? Do you sound like an idiot? Do you use proper grammar? Right? Your resume looks great. Do you look as great as your resume looks in a 15 or 20 minute interview? And then if so, they send you back home. And then a few months later, they'll bring you back again for another interview. And that interview is more of let's see what you're capable of mentally, personality testing, exercises that from seeing if you're cognitively intelligent to your decision-making capability to your creativity, all of that kind of stuff. And then you've got more interviews after that get into the more detailed stuff of, we think that you should do this job, so take this test, or we think that you should do that job, so take this test. And the polygraph is in there, and it's normally about an 18 or 19 month process.
Damn. Before you get started.
Before
And
you
you're
get
not
started.
getting paid anything at this time.
And they're telling you that whole time to basically lie to everybody, because we don't know what you're going to be, we don't know what your cover is going to be, we don't know if you're going to be undercover, so make something up.
Yeah.
Right? and just don't tell
Were
anybody.
you working anywhere at the time?
I was fortunate that I applied, or I was recruited and submitted my first kind of acceptance while I was still with the Air Force. So I was trying to leave the Air Force and go into the
I
Peace
see.
Corps.
Yeah, nice move.
So
Yeah.
I had given myself like a 9-month runway, and the Air Force was going to give me 60 days of vacation because that's what I had accrued. So I was like, 7 months of work, 2 months of vacation time, and then I'll face the music of the real world. And I was trying to get into the Peace Corps to become a hippie. And that's when the agency found me, and the timing was just perfect. It worked out. I spent 7 months with the Air Force, got through most of my application with the agency, spent 2 months just skiing on the mountains in Montana.
Awesome.
And then finally the agency came through and they were like, hey, you're hired. Your start date is February 7th, I think it was. It may have been February. I think it was Valentine's Day. I think it was February 14th, actually.
Really?
Yeah, in 2007.
And then at that point, you're a CIA intelligence.
Correct. At
Right.
that day, you're a CIA intelligence officer, untrained. You don't know anything. You're undercover. You don't know what your cover is. You've got an alias name. You don't know what your alias name is, right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't gone into the building yet, because you haven't gotten cleared to go in yet. It's a funky transition.
Now, are you in a relationship at this time?
I was not, no.
I was going to say, that must have, I don't know how you would pull that one off.
No, I was single, and I was loving being single, and I was super excited to be an undercover world traveler.
Well, that's what I was saying to
And
Rob.
single.
I was saying, look at this fucking guy. he walks up to, I don't care, my girl, your girl, this guy's girl, anybody's girl. He walks up with that jacket like that, right, the black and white one. He walks up like that. Hey, my name's Andrew. What do you do, Andrew? I'm a fucking CIA agent. And I was in the Air Force, and I had the button to. I was I was messing with nuclear weapons in the Air Force, and now I'm a CIA. CIA. Number 12. You know what that equals? Panty dropper. Boom.
That's top of the list.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that mentality then, because I was working hard for dates then, man.
All you'd have to do is just look like that, go up. Yeah, I'm a CIA agent. I don't care if she's married. I don't care what's going on. You got her, pal.
But so that was how I got in, and then I actually met my wife at the agency.
Who's actually that's funny. So your wife now, she was in the CIA as well.
Right. So we actually started
Match made
almost
in
the
heaven.
same date, like almost the same start date. We met during our onboarding training. It was funky, man.
That's awesome.
She was single. She had the same ambitions that I did. I'm going to be
Yeah.
a single lady undercover at CIA. It's going to be great. I was like, I'm gonna be a
That
single guy.
that is the perfect thing. Like almost like as if it was meant to be. Because how could somebody else understand that kind of life?
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
that's
mean?
what turned it. So that in the end was worth, and it continues to be worth its weight in gold. She gets me.
sure.
I get her in a way that others just can't.
Yeah, because if you're with probably another girl, she's going to want to know things. Doesn't understand that you can't.
Why are you
To protect
leaving?
her,
Yeah.
you know.
Where are you going for 2 weeks? I'm going to this place. Well, if
Yeah.
you're going to that place, why do you need a suit like that? You're like,
Right.
"Oh, no,
So
you
can
don't."
you imagine being with like a
Yeah.
normal girl? I don't know how that would go. I think you'd be paying alimony, and I'm sure it wouldn't be the best. So now Chinese, Thai, and Japanese.
Yeah, so my time at the agency, the languages that I was exposed to were Chinese, Thai, and Japanese.
Can you
and then
speak them or you
English.
just understand them?
So this is another one of those things that Hollywood lies to you about, right? Nobody is fluent in multiple languages unless they are actively using those languages in their daily life, right? Like if they're an interpreter or a translator, that kind of thing. And then they might be fluent in two. The way fluency works is you become fluent in one language other than your native tongue. And the more fluent you become, usually the more your native tongue starts to suffer. So I remember being quite good at Chinese and sounding like an idiot when I spoke English because I couldn't find the right word. I remember being on a plane coming back from China. This was pre-agency when the Air Force was teaching me Chinese. And I was coming back from China trying to fill out my little declarations form. And I couldn't remember the word for something. It was a 3 or 4 syllable word for something I was carrying. And I was like, what is the English word for that? It was a funky feeling.
Because
man.
you were so used to the Chinese.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then that's the reality of it. So when the agency teaches you a language, they're not training you in the language to become more fluent in that language than you are in English. They're training you to become just fluent enough that you can have a conversation with somebody in that country and they're not threatened by the fact that you speak their language.
Right.
Right? They want to be like, oh, like imagine meeting a Chinese person or a Russian person and they speak perfect English. You're going to be like,
Something isn't right
here.
Right.
You meet a Russian who speaks like bad English with a clear Russian accent. You're like, oh, you seem normal.
Right.
I don't really, maybe I like Russians, maybe I don't, but whatever. You don't immediately suspect them.
Because as a CIA spy, your whole thing is to be undetected.
Well,
so if you're too good,
detected.
The people that you're trying to get to, they're looking out for this type of thing probably every day.
Right, exactly.
So they're looking for signs. So you come in and blah, 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 you're perfect. You're right. You wouldn't fit in as the normal guy that's on vacation.
Right. That's exactly
or whatever,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
You've got it. Doesn't matter if you're a business person. Doesn't matter if you're a diplomat. Doesn't matter if you're an educator. Nobody in a foreign country speaks that language perfectly fluently, right? They are a foreigner and they speak like a foreigner. Maybe they have a great vocabulary. Maybe they have a great accent, but they're not as good as a native.
What was or if you're allowed to, what was the first mission they gave you when you got to the CIA? Are you allowed to talk about that?
I'm sure I can find a way to talk about it. So
yeah, you can, you know.
So a lot of the first things that we do isn't actually forward deployed. A lot of the stuff that we do when we first get there is like supporting operations from Langley. So we'll look at the information that's coming in. We'll help coordinate or determine resources or operational points that are relevant. That's kind of the stuff that we do. So it's not that much different than having on-the-job training in any corporate job, right? They're not going to put you in charge of selling to the highest client, right, to the highest net worth client right away. They're going to make sure that you know how to process the sale on the back end first.
So you're kind of like in an office thing, gathering information in the beginning.
Right. So then what ends up happening, in my case, there's a lot of countries in the world.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of undercover officers.
Yeah.
So you end up kind of being deployed to a team that's covering a certain country or a certain topic in a certain country. So like you're in charge of covering political developments in Egypt, or you're in charge of, collecting whatever on the Democratic Republic of Congo, right? So you're in these different teams. The smaller the country, the smaller the team. So I ended up on a one-person team where I was the only person covering a country, and the person working with me was the supervisor who was basically coaching me to become ready to deploy if I needed to. So I'm covering this boring, sleepy country. And then there's a coup in that country.
And what's a coup?
A coup is when the military takes over. They kick out the government and it becomes a military-run country. Kind of like what happened to Myanmar recently.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah. Again. Yeah.
So there's a coup in this country, and the whole National Clandestine Service, the whole Directorate of Operations is like, who knows the most about that country? And it's me. And I'm like, I know nothing about this country. I've been on the account 3 months. They're like, you know more than anybody else. So now I'm the one briefing the Senate. I'm the one briefing Congress. I'm the one talking to the director.
The U.S. Senate. Wow.
Right? About whatever. I'm not sleeping.
Right off the rip, you're going, when you go from done being office guy to field guy, you're out there, and before you know it, you're in front of the U.S. Senate, and you're the only one.
And you're the only one.
Oh, fuck.
And that sounds crazy to us. It's not that surprising. Like Burma, I remember I had a buddy of mine who was the only guy who was covering Burma.
And what was Burma for people that don't know?
Burma is Myanmar. It's the same country, two different names.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Burma became important. And then the whole agency looks, who knows the most about Burma? That guy. So now that guy's the guy.
So now they put you before the U.S. Senate?
Yeah. So then they have me write out talking points or bullet points or whatever at a congressional level. Me and 7 bosses above me have to review them and make sure that they say the right thing. And then they don't put us in front of the Senate. They bring the Senate or the Congressional Intelligence Committee chair. They bring them to Langley. And they bring their entourage of junior people. And then we all sit in a big conference room, and the boss and the bosses me and my 7 bosses are all sitting on one side of the table. And whoever the congressional person is and their delegates are all sitting on the other side. And we're talking it out. What are you doing? What are you spending money on? What resources do you have in country? Whatever it might be. And
what administration was this?
This was all under Obama. Most of my years were under Obama.
Yeah. How do you think he ran things as far as like CIA operations and things like that. I mean,
what I liked about Obama is he understood that the agency was a tool, and like weapons are tools. The more that you get away from people who are leading edge warriors, the more people talk about weapons as weapons. The more you talk to leading edge warriors, they're like, no, weapons are tools. No different than a hammer, no different than a pen, right? It's just a gun. It's just a knife. It's just a bomb. It's a tool for a certain outcome. Obama did a really good job of knowing that CIA was a tool for a specific kind of outcome. And he used that tool very effectively in counterterrorism, counterproliferation, counter-narcotics, shaping world policy in a way that we didn't, the American people don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, you never hear about
and
that.
And they'll never know, right?
How do you get to $10 billion in an airplane in cash? What happened with that? What happened with that, Andrew?
I don't know the answer to that one, man.
Good one.
Or
Plead the fifth. Plead the fifth. I'd like to know how the fuck you did that one. But, yeah. But yeah, so he was pretty good with the CIA. He found a way to use it as a tool.
And because no matter what you think about politics, I think that Biden is just going to be a carbon copy of Obama. I anticipate Biden's going to use CIA the same way. Right, and that's fine. That's a good way to use them.
My concern with him is I'm afraid, and I think that they're going to call him a nutcase in a year, and push him out, and then you're going to have Harris and Pelosi, because they got to give him a year, And I think then they'll say he's unfit to be president, and then you got Harris and Pelosi.
I don't know, man. I hope not.
Me, but
I don't know that would benefit the United States as an international, influencer. And that's the most important thing. Politics is all secondary. The most important thing is that the world looks at the United States as a superpower. When the world questions us, we lose superiority.
We got to be getting questioned now, right?
Oh, but how serious are the questions? This is the thing, right? People were like, Trump's making a laughing stock out of the United States. Trump, in his 4 years, right? Whatever, even if you take out the things he did well, if you assume he did everything wrong, his 4 years isn't going to undo the last 200 years.
Yeah.
People might not like him, and they're all like every leader outside of the United States who doesn't have a 4-year term and doesn't have 2 terms, 8 years tops, they're all sitting around like, whatever. This is just a sneeze. It's just a temporary change. The United States likes to change their leader because they're idiots.
Yeah.
Right? So they're just waiting. They don't think that the United States is weak. They just think that we're confused about our president. And most of them are capitalizing on that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's only been 4 years. It's the wind. And whatever happens with this guy, it's the wind. And, and things will change and get messed up for a while, but they're easily fixable, hopefully.
So we just had so Biden just called in that airstrike on the militia, the militants, the Iranian militants or Shia militants in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
That is called a tit for tat move. So when Trump had those same kind of things creep up, he would often respond with more force than what is generally accepted in the world of international intrigue, right? So why was it newsworthy that Biden responded with something that was within realm, within tolerances? Because that was Iran's way of testing what's Biden going to do.
Right.
That's what every country in the world does. They want to test how's someone going to react to this, how's someone going to react to that. They're not trying to invade a country. They're just
what
happens?
Which way do you think is better, to send a message or just hit him with the peanut?
I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? If you're trying to
it's a base by base or situation by situation.
I don't know if you're a baseball fan or or an MMA fan. Every game has a strategy. And then every opponent in that game, you've got to adjust your strategy to that opponent. It's the same way in international espionage and in international conflict. What Iran does, we have to respond to differently than what China does or what Armenia does, right? Whenever it goes and it has a conflict with Azerbaijan, right? It's always got to be different. What Turkey does, you got to handle everything differently because it's all baseball, but they're different teams. So you got to kind of change how much you use your top hitter, how often you use a switch hitter. You got to change yourself up so that you don't make the other team look too bad, because then they go ape shit and partner with somebody you don't want them to partner with.
Yeah. Now, after you get through the first mission kind of thing where you go to the U.S., then when you become spy guy.
So you become
CIA spy guy. You're following me around. I don't know where you're at. I don't know you're over there in the corner. You're hiding pretty good. I'm looking, but I don't see you.
Surprisingly early, actually, man.
Really?
Yeah. So if you can imagine, if you can compare it to I don't know, high school sports. One of the things, so my company is Everyday Spy. What I try to do is break down espionage into everyday terms. It's part of what I found so fascinating about it. So when I teach people about espionage, I break it down as much as possible to everyday terms so you know how it applies and how to use it. So if you can imagine high school athletics, you're on the team as soon as the coach says you're on the team. And then what do you go? You go through some kind of summer training, right? Whether it's baseball or track and field or whatever, you go through some sort of training period with the team. And then you're on the team. You know how we play. You know what plays we have in our playbook. You know how to do it. So then when we need you, we put you in. We know that sometimes your performance isn't going to be as good as the lead varsity guy, right? But you're the tight end. We're never going to make you the quarterback, but we expect you to be a good tight end. It's the same way. So you go to the agency, you go through your foundation training. They teach you, you go through your essentially basic training for field operations, and then boom, you're the spy guy. Doesn't matter if you're sitting in Langley or if you're sitting in Kabul or if you're sitting in friggin' Paris. Like, they expect the same thing.
Does the CIA do spy missions or like what you were doing? Like Donnie Brasco was undercover for 6-7 years. You know Donnie Brasco?
Only
Joe Pistone.
Okay. You're talking about in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. He was an FBI agent. He went undercover to get the Bonanno family, the Colombo family.
Okay.
So were you doing that type of thing where, as a CIA agent in other countries, were you acting as John Miller with blonde hair and blue eyes, tracking down Rob?
Right. So essentially, I think that's a fair comparison. FBI takes care of everything domestic. CIA takes care of everything not domestic. When the CIA has to do something in the United States, they partner with the FBI. When FBI has to do something outside the United States, they partner with CIA. And then how we carry out our ops in terms of, where and when and what we collect, a lot of that stays in the classified realm.
Okay.
But yeah, you've got it. Like, a undercover narc officer here is essentially the same thing as an undercover officer abroad, chasing two different objectives, but a lot of the same fundamental expectations. You're going to go, you're not going to get caught, you're going to protect your cover, you're going to do whatever you got to do to get the information, right? Here we're building a case. FBI wants to build a case to put someone in jail. CIA wants to build a giant book of secrets that the president can use against that country.
Right.
Not looking to arrest anybody. So we don't need evidence, we just need facts.
I don't think many people know that the CIA is basically, would you agree, to sum it up kind of in a way, CIA is like a international FBI for the U.S.
If you want to put it that way, yeah. It's not fair. They're not law enforcement specifically, but
right.
But yeah.
But gathering information to build a case or tools.
Right.
Or a weapon.
Yep. Building information so that you can use that information as a tool to gain with that information superiority. That thing we talked about at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's a tool. That's a tool more powerful than a gun.
I know you have to be broad, so give me the most scariest spy operation, being as broad as you can, that you experienced.
So
that was like, that really kind of shook you.
So there are these moments.
Yeah.
There are these moments where you're not in a country, right? You're on a plane, you're on a boat, you're in international waters. Like, your passport, your nationality, your cover doesn't matter when you're in between places. Not like a border, not crossing from Florida to Georgia, right? You're always in the U.S. You get yourself 250 miles off the coast of Florida, who's got jurisdiction, right? Who's the boss of who? Stuff happens out there, and there is no recourse. They don't make diplomatic issues out of it because there's no law governing anything out there, right? It's maritime law, essentially, is all it is, right? But there's all these moments where you're in transit, someplace like that.
Like an example, like deep in the ocean, or an airspace that isn't really controlled. Yeah.
And then you are never hunting good guys. You're hunting bad guys. There's a terrorist on the boat, a terrorist on the plane, a weapons proliferator on the boat, a weapons proliferator on the plane, right? There's somebody bad, and no bad person travels alone. They travel with tons of other bad people. And then you're there, but you don't have any backup. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then,
Now, are you like wired up, or are you just mentally collecting information?
You're mentally collecting everything because you don't want to be identifiable.
Because if they shake it down, you're done.
Exactly. So there are multiple moments like that, and then people start to get strangely honest. It happens to us. We call it a big red button, a self-destruct button.
Yeah.
You get so afraid of your environment that you're like, maybe I can talk my way out of this. Maybe I can just be like, boop, pause, hold on.
Yeah.
Pause the show. I'm a CIA officer.
Yeah.
I don't belong here. Just drop me off at the next port. I'll forget I know you. You forget you know
Yeah.
me. Right? And because those moments become so stressful, because what ends up happening is you're sitting across from a terrorist or a weapons proliferator, and they're talking to you about really sensitive stuff like they're your friend. And you realize, like, this is what I need. I need to push harder. I need to push deeper. Like, I need to collect more.
And that's the goal of the mission, right?
But if I do,
You gotta.
what if I do too much? What if they become suspicious of me right now? Right? This is a place where they can just like, hey, Billy, hey, Bobby, come over here. Andy just asked me about this thing. I don't think I like that thing. Like,
Done.
And
So-
then you're already wired to be like, oh my gosh, maybe I can just talk my way out. But I mean, those are scary moments because we always have an evac plan. When you're in country, you always have an evac plan. We call it ghosting. I know how to disappear.
Have you ever had to do that?
No, thankfully no. But we all know how. But when you're on a freaking boat, when you're in a freaking airplane,
Yeah.
there's no ghosting, man. You are stuck
You're
there.
stuck. You
Like,
ain't going
they just
anywhere.
turn off the engines, boo. Like,
And what I would think is that the guy that you're trying to get, like, once you do get to the person you're trying to get to or the group, that you're testing them, but they're testing you too.
and you know they are because you've been
Yeah.
targeting them for so
Right,
long. You
and
know
you've-
how smart they are.
Right. So you know that they might throw you a bunch of bullshit just to see what you do.
Right. And there's
And then your answer, your reply back, right, has to be so strategically accurate and carefully presented. Because one thing,
And
I
you
mean,
ne-
they'll cut your head off.
Well, you also never know. Like, did they invite you on the boat? Did they invite you on the plane? Did they invite you on the trip because you're an insider and they trust you, or did they invite you to come smoke you out? You don't even know, man. Like, you're trying to assess it, but at a certain point, you just got to go on faith, right?
Yeah, you never know.
So, and you're totally off the grid,
And those were the scariest situations.
and they happen more often than you would think because nobody wants to talk about the next big weapons deal in a hotel room. They want to talk about the next big weapons deal 600 miles off the coast, right? In like
Where
a yacht.
there's nothing. Yep. And
Yeah.
if they do find something, they can get rid of whoever it is very easily.
Right. So you basically like you send your message, hey, this is what's happening. I'm going, right? These guys have asked me to go out in the middle of the desert, no man's land in the Middle East, just desert, big red sand desert.
You've been there?
Oh yeah, man. It's giant. They look like mountains of sand, right? Dunes that are just massively huge.
What the hell do you do?
You find a tent. You live off of camel milk or yak milk or whatever else,
Do
right?
you have to get yourself?
They get no,
Oh.
because I mean the people who are taking you there, you're going in like Land Rovers or you're going in giant like camel caravans or taking a helicopter. Like they know how to get around out there. But like there you are. There's no Wi-Fi signal. There's no satellite. There's no nothing, right? It's a mobile camp, and you're all sitting around smoking like the different kind of tobacco they smoke out there, and you're having a powwow about here's what we're doing next. Here's where we're going next. And you're like, this is insane. Why am I here right now?
Yeah.
If I have to get out of here, it's not going to happen because I don't know. Like the sand dunes change shape every night when the wind blows. So the only person who knows the way out of here is a freaking camel.
Yeah. You better hope that he's having a good day or have something to eat for him, or you're stuck. And then they're gonna find you.
Yeah, man.
What's the worst country you've been to? Or what's the worst country you went to do like a spy mission for the CIA?
So we can't
That
talk.
was just hell.
Yeah, we can't talk about our specific ops.
Yeah.
I never, ever liked operating in the Middle East. Ever.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you're talking about Iraq or if you're talking about Qatar. It doesn't matter what country you're talking about in the Middle East. The culture of Middle Easterners, Gulfi or Khaliji Middle Easterners, they have been raised to be clever and sharp and intelligent and manipulative because that's just culture for them, right? That's how they've always survived. So they can have a smile on their face. You can be absolutely certain, like, this guy is loyal to me. I've got him. I know what he's talking about. I know when he's lying. I've got the baseline down. The whole baseline was a fake, right? What we're trained to do as adults, they start getting conditioned in that as children.
Yeah.
It's a horrible place to operate because you are just always looking over your shoulder. You never know if you're safe or not, even when you come back from the States. Look at the journalist that got taken out by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
What was his name again?
James
Khashoggi? Is that how you pronounce it? But
Yeah, Khashoggi, I think.
but like that's the reach, right? And the whole world knows it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Crown Prince. Like, what are you gonna do? That's scary stuff, man. And that's the kind of power and reach that happens across the Middle East. They are
Khashoggi.
Khashoggi.
Khashoggi. Oh yeah, Jamal Khashoggi. The 18
Mhm.
Khashoggi. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So it's just powerful, scary stuff, man. It's the same thing that
And
Mossad
that could have
did.
been you, right?
Well, that
I
could
mean-
be, and that can be, and that's the thing. When you're inside, if you're operating anywhere in the world, you're always measuring the people who are operating opposite you, and you're just like, ooh, I don't know what I want to do. So whether I was traveling through the Middle East or staying in the Middle East, I was in the UAE teaching in the Middle East, and I was still scared out of my mind, man. It's like not scared, but like hyper alert, and it's an exhausting feeling.
And you've been to 18 different countries? And it's just through the CIA?
Yeah, I mean, it's all related to the agency or related to personal travel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the agency's nice because it's a free ride wherever you
Yeah,
go.
shit. And how many spy missions do you think you've been on?
Oh man, like you're on op about 3 times a week.
Because you did 20 years, right?
No.
Or not? I'm sorry.
I did 7 years with the agency.
7 years with the
Yeah.
agency. Okay.
Yeah, I left in 14. So I started in 17, left in 14. But when you're active, you're running about 3 active ops a week. You're
Wow.
touching multiple ops every day. But usually your focus is on 2 or 3 a week.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's not like the movies, right? The movies make it seem like, oh, she's going to do this one thing for the next 6 months.
Yeah, my perception was it was like 3 6-month missions, maybe a year, not.
Yeah.
Now, when you say 3 a week, how do you do 3 a week?
So it's more complicated than that even, right? Every officer is undercover. So if you're an undercover officer, what does that mean? It means you have to live like you're someone else. So you name whatever the cover is. You own a tire shop, or you're a marketing director, whatever, right? You sell whatever diapers to supermarkets in bulk. Whatever your cover is, you've got to do that job. So day to day, 9 to 5, you're doing that job. You're living in a house, driving a car, looking like you earn that kind of money, whatever it might be. So that's great if you're like a international hedge fund manager. It sucks if you're like the guy who's, trying to launch a startup tire company.
So they would put you in a house, give you a car. So when you say 3 times a week, it's the same mission? It's just 3 times a week? Or like Monday is you're Harry, Wednesday you're Robert, Friday you're Tommy?
No, it's more like you are.
Sorry if I'm being a moron.
No,
I'm
you're
just
living.
trying
You're Tommy
to- Yeah.
all the time. That's who you are for the next 2 years. You're Tommy, right? But then on Monday after your work day, Tommy's going out with Billy because Billy's connected to a terrorist network.
I see.
And then on Wednesday, you're Tommy, but you're going out with Jane because Jane's connected to a human smuggling ring, right? And then on Friday, you're still Tommy, but now you're Tommy going out with Jacob.
Ah, gotcha. So I'm always Tommy. I'm just hitting 3 different missions a week at a time.
Right, until the point comes where you're like called in to meet with somebody who's coming from somewhere else, and they're like, "Hey, Tommy, we need you to be Bill this week to meet with whatever."
That has to be so much preparation.
So
to
the-
do that 3 different people, knowing that if you make one mistake, you're done.
Well, it's not that. So this is where being undercover is so beneficial. Mistakes, when you're undercover and you've respected your cover, it's very mistake friendly.
Oh,
right?
really?
You show up late, you make a mistake, you say something you shouldn't say. Why you like sell tires, but you talk about how you spent time in New Zealand. Like, why is a tire dealer ever in New Zealand, kind of thing. So it's more mistake friendly when you respect that cover. Over time, what happens is your cover starts to degrade. We call it degrade, which means like you've spent so much time with somebody, you've had so many conversations, they're starting to become suspicious of you. But you've spent so much time together that you've built a personal relationship with that person. The secret power of CIA is in understanding human relationships. You can build so much trust with somebody that even when they start to distrust you, that you're lying to them about who you are and what you do, they're like,
They have an emotional connection to you because you built a relationship with them.
yep. Think about all the abusive relationships that happen in the U.S.,
Mhm.
right? Verbal abuse, physical abuse, whatever it is. Essentially, the agency teaches us how to do that with anyone we need to do it with in the name of national security. We're not beating people or telling them they're stupid,
Right.
but we are telling them we're a tire dealer when we're not.
Right.
We're trying to steal secrets.
You're manipulating to get the information that you need to complete the mission or the task that you've been given.
So that even when the day comes that they're like, I think you're CIA.
They think twice about whacking you because you have that emotional, the emotion overrides the intelligence.
And they're compromised, right?
Yeah.
If they take you out, they've got to go to their boss, who's some uppity up in a terrorist network, and be like,
And a nutcase.
this guy that I vouched for the last 2 years?
No, he's dead.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Right? I found out he's CIA, so I whacked him. They're like, no, you're not reliable. Boom, you're gone too.
Right.
It's better for them to be
Because you went in and you vouched. You vouched, you said this guy was okay, you brought him around us. Oh, now you want to kill him.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one who vouched. It's not his fault that he got to you.
Yeah.
You're the one who allowed, Andrew to get to you.
So if you think about
So
it,
you're dead, not him.
think about every bad guy out there, right? Every bad guy out there is looking for other bad guys that they can rely on. And if you bring in the wrong bad guy, if you're the one that brings in the Fed, if you're the one that brings in the narc, if you're the one that brings in the agency officer.
See you.
So our goal is to get that close and have them come to that realization on their own where they're like, oh, I'm in too deep. We call it a slippery slope, right? It's like climbing the top of a mountain where there's just gravel. Every time you take a step, you just slip down. We want to get them onto a slippery slope. So then we're like, look, not only do you know I'm CIA, not only can you not tell your boss, you have nobody you can count on.
But me. And boom. Now, have you ever been in that situation where it got nasty?
We all get into that situation. And nasty looks a lot of different ways. Sometimes nasty looks like, they're carrying a weapon.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got to have a hard conversation with them, but I know they're carrying with a weapon. Sometimes nasty is they're mentally unstable. And you're like, I got to find a way to.
I would think most of them are, right?
Well,
But they're also very smart, though. I was actually, it's a funny story. I was actually across from someone. He blew up, I don't know. I think he blew up the embassy somewhere. And it was an interesting conversation with him. And I never put it into perspective. And he came to America. He got rocked 20 years, whatever. And I ran into him. And he was explaining to me that he got to the U.S. and he started thinking completely different. But he had told me that from the day he was born, his only thing in life was to blow this thing up. Whatever, I forget, it was something big.
Mm-hmm.
He blew it up. So like me and you, we get taught to play football or soccer or whatever. His only thing in life was military, whatever country he was from, Middle East. Your mission in your life, you were born to go blow this up. No, forget football, forget baseball, forget, video games, whatever. This is your mission.
Yep.
So, as sick as it sounds, that's all he knew. So he grew up, this is what I'm supposed to do. So he blew it up. Now he gets caught, obviously, goes away and realizes what the world really is. It's not this,
it's not the place he was told.
It's not this desert of, you just blow shit up, and he was extremely regretful. But, and when I heard that, and I could tell he was, he was being real, that he really did, he regret. I could just see the regret.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a tough thing for a person because, yeah, he blew up and he killed people. But what's the backstory to it?
So we actually are taught about there's a ladder, a radicalization ladder that's terrorists go through, and it's a set recipe, man. It's almost sad.
It's almost like when you're supposed to marry somebody, right?
Yeah,
it's like pre-set up that you're going to marry whoever.
Well, some people are like that. There are some people born already into an extremist household.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of folks are they're recruited into the organization. So if you are a recruiter for ISIS, for example, right? You want to find disillusioned groups. It's it's marketing only for terrorists, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go find a disillusioned group, and then I'm gonna coax the fire that they were abused, and then I'm gonna build them up into a community of like-minded people, and then I'm gonna offer them an opportunity to backlash against the people who held them down. And you're going to start with 100 people that are disillusioned, but only 20% of them are going to move up the ladder. Well, then of the 20 people that are up the ladder, you know only like 2 of them are going to move to the next step. Well, the top of the ladder is someone who straps a bomb to their chest and runs into a public square.
Yeah.
You only need one person to do it, right? So that's the ascension ladder. But just like you said, they're not being told the truth.
Yeah.
They're being cultivated. They're being developed through this recipe. That's the stuff that kills me, because it's not that different from what happens here when it comes to the messages that we're being fed. If you don't seek out information on your own to validate what you're being told,
Isn't it the same thing?
it can be the same thing.
No, regardless of the outcome of what happened, yeah, he blew something up, but the principle, right, is the same.
Yeah, we're not being cultivated to blow things up necessarily, but there was a group of people who took on who took in the Capitol.
That's right.
Right? There are people who go and show up with all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's because the messages that they're surrounding themselves with is tuning out all other
Things
frame
that
of
are
reference.
important.
Yep. And like the reason that it's so interesting to me is less because of security and national security and more because of everyday life, right? Like the whole focus of my company. Because how does Apple get you to buy the newest iPhone every time it comes out?
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem.
They built a massive ecosystem, and
then you have an iPad, and you have an iPhone, and you have.
I'm sucked into. We're all sucked into.
And then when you get all sucked into it, you're on the cloud.
Yep.
And then what happens if you ever want to move your information?
Yeah.
You're kind of screwed, right?
They got you. You got to give it to them for the marketing.
That's just that ladder. It's
they
the
haven't
ascension
changed
ladder.
that damn iPhone since the iPhone 6. I saw my friend. He works the one over in Apayu, Polytech.
Okay.
And they have some renders of the 14. The next one looks pretty much the same too.
Yep.
The 14 is changed. You're not an Apple guy because I
Nope.
saw it was green.
Yeah.
The CIA, what do they use? Can you say that?
So
Apple or
a lot of it's proprietary. Like they find their way onto whatever proprietary back ends that they need to use.
so they don't use a specific brand of phone?
They'll use whatever's indigenous to the place that they're trying to operate,
Oh.
right? There's plenty of places in the world that still use Nokia flip phones, man.
Yeah. They're probably the most secure, right?
Yeah, because they're not connected to anything.
Now is Apple is iMessage actually encrypted?
Everything's encrypted that says it's encrypted.
Even WhatsApp that's owned by Facebook.
And everything's compromised. It's just a matter of who it's compromised to. That's the thing. Signal?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about
Signal's
Signal.
not safe. Signal reps, if anybody wants to sue me, you can. I know you're not
I
safe.
just saw him on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, they're
So
not
Signal's not safe.
compromised. But who's it compromised to? The Israelis, right? The
Really?
Israelis are a pro-U.S. group, right? So whatever.
Holy shit.
So you can't trust it. WhatsApp, why don't people trust WhatsApp? Because it's compromised. Who's it compromised to? The Chinese. If it's compromised to the Chinese, chances are it's compromised to the North Koreans, chances are it's compromised to the Russians, right? Like, it's known who the programmers were, where they came from, who their loyalties are to. All that stuff is out there, right? It's just we have to choose who gets our information. Your information isn't safe anywhere except in your own head.
So you can pull anything out of any phone you want.
It just depends on which tool is on the phone that is your doorway in, right? It's a sad reality, but it's a reality I want everybody to understand so that we can stop being fooled into thinking that we're safe. Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with your information belonging to other people. This is the best intelligence agencies in the world struggle. Why? Because of a preponderance of information. There's too much information. Why is it that when your mom and your wife and your mother-in-law are all together at Thanksgiving and they're all talking at the same time, you want all of them to stop talking? Why? Because you're overwhelmed with information.
Yeah.
It's the same way in Intel. You're not learning anything. When everybody's talking about 3 different things, you're not learning anything. Mom, babe, be quiet. Mother-in-law, what do you want to say?
Let somebody finish. Yeah.
It's the same
People
way.
have a tough time.
So the Intel world has tons of information, but they can't act on all of it. Like another great, why was a Capitol building able to be penetrated by rioters? Why did that happen?
I think they had to have let that happen.
It was an Intel failure, man, because
Is that what it was?
There's documented evidence out there that there were multiple Intel reports submitted. Police reports, district reports from other states, suspicious activity reports. It was all sent in, but none of it was put together in the right way at the right time to make sure that there was a proper defense and security in place on the day it happened.
Do you think that was on purpose?
And I don't think that's ever on purpose.
No.
9/11 wasn't on purpose, man.
Yeah.
It was just people they weren't sharing the intel they need to share, right? Boston bombing happened. People weren't sharing the intel they need to share. It's a hard thing.
Because didn't Bush get warned that something might happen and he kind of brushed it off and like the intel just didn't come together? Am I right about that?
So, I mean, using the word like somebody's warned, what does that mean? What determines like a warning?
Well, like what is actually a warning?
Yeah,
right?
if somebody calls your house and they're like, hey, someone is going to throw an egg on your front door, and you're like, who are you? It doesn't matter. Where are you calling from? Doesn't matter. Like,
click. You overlook it. Next thing you know, there's an egg on your.
Or there's no egg on your door.
Yeah.
How many times do you get a call and says there's going to be an egg on your door, and you're like, is there going to be an egg? No egg. Is there going to be an egg? No egg. Like, how many times does it not happen before you're just like, whatever, dude, and then you get hit? That's the problem with intel. People will tell you all day long there's going to be an attack here, an attack there, something's going to blow up here, something's going to blow up there. The Christmas Day bombing in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dude.
That was crazy.
Dude had a record. Somebody had like called. Somebody had even said he's making a bomb in that RV. But all the intel wasn't in place.
Oh, yeah, that's where the Dominion was. The fucking Dominion was there.
Yep.
Now, that looks a little suspicious to me.
Not enough information at the right time for law enforcement to take action.
I think my opinion, they let that one go. Well, isn't it funny? You make the call to warn people, not, this is 6 o'clock in the morning with the sun out, okay? You make a call to warn people, basically to stay away. Then you go bomb it. Come to find out, one of the Dominion servers is in there. And I'm not saying I'm for or Trump or Biden or whatever, but isn't it just kind of odd? Now, let me ask you, what terrorist is going to call at 6 a.m. and warn people that a bomb's going to go off?
So let me ask you.
Or maybe I have my information incorrect.
Well, no,
which is very possible.
Even if you have your information correct, like let's look.
Incorrect, yeah.
Let's look at all of the. So we have a practice where we look at all possible hypotheses. It's called an ACH, an analysis of competing hypotheses. The reason conspiracy theories happen is because people don't look at all the possible hypotheses. They land on one, and they invest themselves in that one. The reason it happened was because of this. And so what you're saying, right? The dude was targeting it because of a Dominion server. It looks suspicious. It smells suspicious. That's my hypothesis. That's what I think. There's like 12 other reasons that it could have happened, right? What kind of guy announces he's going to have a bomb go off? The kind of guy that doesn't want to kill people. Right? Was he targeting that one server? Was he targeting something he thought was 5G? It's another hypothesis, right? Was he just totally wackadoodle and he was actually trying to target the restaurant across the street? We don't know. What did he park there because it was just a social place that was in the middle of Nashville? Nashville, right? That was Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville. Yeah.
Is that why he parked there? It was as a social street? Maybe. We don't know, but those are all different hypotheses. So the way that the agency handles that is we're like, we can't say it's any one of these for sure. We have to collect all the information available and then basically like put tick marks between each one. Like, there's 5 reasons to think it's this hypothesis. There's 6 reasons to think it's that hypothesis. 2 reasons to think it's that hypothesis. But we don't know for sure because the only guy who knows for sure is
the guy. It seemed to just get brushed under the rug. Does that go to the CIA or that stays in the FBI?
That's FBI. I'm sure every member of the IC came to suit for that one. Like we all looked at everything we had to try to figure it out. Guaranteed.
So is there any encryption, like real encryption, where, so the people that are watching the signal, I mean, that guy was on Signal, Mickey, I forget his name. He was on Rogan for 3.5 hours with all these, no points of why Signal is safe,
so secure,
encrypted, more than Wicker, more than, about Wicker?
No.
That's another one. WhatsApp, whatever else. And he,
sounds like a marketing conversation to me.
But I mean, it was a pretty good selling tool. So if I text you on Signal and it says erased, you could pull that, or there's an agency that could pull that back.
Well, so think of it this way, right? So encryption is real. All encryption is a way of obfuscating the data as it's transmitted. When it's created in the raw.
Right.
When it's decrypted in the raw. That's why when I send you a message and I say, hey, I'll be there in 3 hours, you get a message that says I'll be there in 3 hours.
When it's transporting to you, it's encrypted.
Right.
But then it's Now it's in the raw on your phone.
Correct. So it's in between in the transmission period. That's when it's safest. The place where you compromise information is when it's put in or when it's received, not in the transmission itself. So if someone gets their hand on your phone and they can unlock your phone, they don't even need to encrypt the messages. It's all there. The whole history is there.
Now, but
You
with the
hit the-
signal that disappears, can they pull that back?
So on the other end, if there's a third party that's intercepting the raw text message at the end and it's captured in a moment, now it's all there. Look at Parler. When Parler was first shut down, right? When it first came out, they were going to take the whole thing down for, I think it was like 3 hours or something.
That was the answer to Facebook, right?
That was the far right response to
Yeah,
Twitter.
because like Facebook kept knocking people off and Twitter. Yeah, Parler. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
so
had a couple
it
people
became this big issue. People were like, they were moving to Parler just to continue talking about, whatever their opinions were when Twitter wasn't letting their opinions be heard. Well, when they decided to attack Parler and shut it down, there was like a period of 3 or 6 hours where the security for Parler was basically removed and there was just raw data. Private companies went in there and scooped up all that data, right? Not because they need to know who's on Parler, not because they're interested in the conversations, but because that's a point in time. Boom, we have all this information now. We can categorize it. We can put it in a database. And now we know if we want to sell advertising to these people, if we want these usernames, we can look for these usernames on other social media platforms and see if they're the same person. Like, because data is the new raw material.
Yeah.
Oil, old school, nobody cares anymore. Diamonds, nobody cares anymore, right? Information is constantly being recreated, constantly being generated, and you can tap into it and make a ton of money. It is the newest natural resource out there.
And all that information is being collected to build AI.
Well, it's all being collected, and then
Well, to sell an AI, right?
AI is then being used to categorize the information because human beings can't keep up with it.
Right.
If you have, just imagine if you had the essentially the equivalent of 10 artificial intelligent servers that could cull through data nonstop, 24 hours a day, even if they moved at the speed of a human brain, right? They don't ever take a break. They never go to sleep. They never need a bathroom break. Like their proficiency is going to be so much higher. So AI is used to sort through the information. Because there's so much information, we've got to refine it. It's really not different from oil. You tap in, you pull it out, you refine it, you sell the refined oil, you sell the crude oil, and you make a business. Now you're just doing it with information.
Did you know that about Parler?
I did not know.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have an account. I was looking at it, but wow, that's so really nothing is. There's nothing really safe. Really, kind of.
There's nothing safe, and I'm sorry to be the one that has to tell people. I
But-
try to be as
but they
honest as I
should-
can.
But they should know that because watch what you say.
Yep.
Watch what you do, right?
Why is it sometimes when they have I don't know, let's use for instance like the school shooting that happened down in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Florida here. They'll say things like this kid they knew like he was going to do this, right? He researched on his laptop. He was searching about mass shootings. Like, wouldn't that be a trigger to be like, ding, 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 we should watch this kid. We should really watch this kid. And then it happens, and it's like, oh, we knew about it all along. Like, what is that? Like,
So I'm going to turn the question back on you, right?
Yep.
Because we all grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Let's have an uncomfortable Pennsylvania conversation.
Go
All
ahead.
right?
Yeah.
How many weird people were in your high school?
Yeah.
How many crazy people were stalking the girls, looking up skirts, looking at guns, carrying in knives, showing off
or
their
the
knives?
gothic thing.
Tons of weird people, right? Quirky people. They're only quirky to you and to me because we're not part of their community, their baseline, right? Like, just because somebody's looking at pictures of guns, just because somebody's into guns, just because they're 14 years old and they have parents that are divorced or whatever else, that doesn't mean they're going to be a shooter, right? So you can't expect law enforcement to take action on a suspicion when no law has been broken. Their job is to enforce the law.
Right.
Their job is not
Not to look at somebody and say, okay, well, this looks like somebody's.
so you're going down, right?
Yeah.
They have to wait. So school shootings are a great example, man, because I have become a strong supporter of any group trying to solve that problem, because school shootings are an intelligence problem. They're not a law enforcement problem. I feel so bad for all the police out there, the districts, the
They
municipalities.
get such a bad rap.
Because they're doing the best they can. They are restricted by the authorities given to them to enforce the law. Suspicious activity comes Like there's tons of it. They can't, if you want cops to look at every possible lead, they're not going to be there when you need them to do something else.
So in other words, it's not the cops' fault. It's the intel that they're getting isn't accurate, and then
it's not enough.
Things
right?
go. Yeah.
So one of my big dreams for Everyday Spy one day is to be in a position where we have enough capital to create an intelligent, artificial intelligence-driven solution to capture all the suspicious reports, all the phone calls, all the reports of bullying, right? And put it all into one big database that basically computates the chances of somebody being a risk. And then all you got to do is notify the principal, the administrators, and the teachers, like, hey, you have 300 students. For using our algorithm, these 5 are the ones you have to watch the closest. So let's get them some mental help. Let's get them with a guidance counselor.
Sure.
Let's look at their families. Let's get them some extra
So
resources.
you're saying one, like, say, for instance, a kid that's constantly getting bullied and constantly getting picked on and this and that, and then you're starting to see different changes in maybe his online presence, what he's doing, and you're realizing it's affecting him mentally, that he's just going to be like, fuck this, I'm done.
What's
People
going to
are
happen
going
one
down.
day, right? If it doesn't happen, it happens slowly, but the decision happens quickly. So all you got to do is be able to intercept the threat. That's all agency does. The agency's job is to find the terrorists before they blow themselves up, and then convert them to a different side, so that not only do you keep them from blowing themselves up, but you get an information source where you learn about other people who are getting ready to blow themselves up.
So maybe given your history and your career, what you're saying with Everyday Spy is you would have a massive computer, basically, and a lot of the calls would get routed to you, and then to your company,
right?
Let's say,
or the nonprofit. This is
nonprofit.
This is a pie in the sky like dream, right?
Yeah,
I got to make my millions before I can fund that.
You need a lot of capital just for the computer alone to handle it, and then through your career and your what you've learned and understand, as in a lot of these things go wrong because the intel wasn't there, you could become that company that the teacher calls you or emails your company, and then you push that out, the correct intel, to the police force so that they have better intel of what they're getting into. If I'm following you correctly.
Yeah, you're following me almost exactly right? So I am of the opinion that the intel is always there. There's never a time when the intel isn't there.
It has to be there.
It's
you just have to find it, right?
Are the sources there? Exactly. Yeah. The same, man, I'm so glad that we connected over the Pennsylvania thing. Everybody in your high school knew the weird kids. Yeah. We all knew who the kid was that if he cornered you in the bathroom, he was going to look at you when you went to when you used your urinal.
Yeah.
We all know that. We all talk about that with each other.
Yeah.
That kid's weird. Don't be alone with him. Like the girls all know who to stay away from, who the jock is that's lying about, whether he's dating somebody. They all know that stuff. Imagine, and they're all reporting that stuff to each other via text message, via Twitter, via, Instagram, whatever else. They're talking about it. It's all being recorded somewhere. All that information's out there in the public domain. Imagine if we could find a way to let them volunteer it anonymously.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, there's the bully. We could be watching the bully, or we could be listening to the people who the bully is bullying.
Right.
Bully moves from school A to school B. Why? Because mom wants him out of that school and into a different school. Two years in that school, and he's doing the same stuff again. He moves to another school. Imagine all of Pennsylvania being able to know this bully was moved from 3 different high schools. He's got a trail of improper touching, punching, swearing, disrespecting teachers. All that feeds into an algorithm that basically just tells the principal of the newest school, here are your 300 students. Here are the 5 that need the most attention. We're not saying that they're going to be violent. We're just saying they have a track record that you don't otherwise know about. The intel is telling you, put your resources into this one, right? The kid who's 365 on the list of 365 students, that's your high-performing student who doesn't need anything because they're coming from a well-balanced household and everything else, right? You don't need to put any school resources extra into that person. They're doing what they need to do. But here's your student that's been through the foster system who, is looking at magazines and potentially talking out loud about causing harm.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the person, but if we don't give them the help they need, what do you expect the outcome to be?
Intel to give them the help. Just like I would see the kids in high school, and I'd be like, because things were getting blown up, like Columbine was around then. And I remember I would see kids, and I would just be like, that kid can say whatever he wants to me, because I know he's going to do something fucked up one day, and I don't want him coming after me. So, when he's got like dark eye makeup on or something and looks really out there, hey, buddy, you want my sandwich? Take it. You can have it. You want to hang out with us? Come on, let's throw football. When you go set something off, just tell me to get away.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
I'm serious too.
But
I'm dead serious.
So that's my point. The intel is there. 9/11, the intel was there,
Yeah.
right? All of the attacks we talked about today, the intel is there. It's just whether or not the sources are there to collect the intel, process it, turn it into something useful. That's the big intel challenge. When that fails, everybody knows. When that's successsul, nobody knows.
Now again,
That's what's so hard
I don't
about
know
the
if you
job.
can go down this rabbit hole, but we've been talking about Bob Lazar. Do you know who that is?
The name sounds familiar.
He was the one who worked at S4 in like 1989, and he was Area 51
Yep,
S4, and then
Yep, I do know.
and then they wiped his MIT, and I think it was Lafayette that he went to. They wiped his credentials, but then they were able to pull up newspaper articles with his picture there at MIT, and I think it was was it Lafayette that he went to? Yeah, I think it was Lafayette. It was the one that you go MIT, then you go Lafayette, then they pull you in, and he was a nut. You know, like he had a bike with a what was it? A bike with a
like a rocket engine on the
yeah. Drew, listen, he built a bicycle and put a jet fuel engine on it. It was a jet engine, right?
jet engine, I believe.
You know, with fly. So he was crazy.
Yeah.
So, but extreme scientist. So, you know, you watch the documentary, and at first, you know, you're like, eh. But then you know, you're starting in 86, 89. His story hasn't changed till now. At first, there was no S4. 7 years later, there was an S4. There was no molecule 115, which is basically, if I remember correctly, it's a molecule that it basically can beat gravity, bend light if used correctly, but we don't have the technology that we know or that I know of to use it. Well, there's no 115. I think it was a decade later, 115 is on the chart. So there's all these things that build up, you know, but to me, they picked him because he was a raging nutcase. That was an extremely good scientist, because who puts a jet engine on a bike at 16, and he's firing up in the driveway.
Yeah.
You know, flags everywhere, just crazy shit. Puts a jet engine on a car. So now you bring him in, and then when you're done using him to reverse engineer what he says he was working on, reverse engineering
Alien technology.
an alien spacecraft,
Right.
to learn how to use the conductors and so on and so forth. Now, when you leave him, if he ever goes public, you could discredit him because he's crazy.
So it's interesting when I know the story.
Okay, so
yeah,
you're
I'm familiar with the
what
story.
I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was actually invited to be part of a Discovery Channel show that was talking about, is alien life out there? Because of stuff that I had seen as well. When you have to look at the risk exposure, the risk profile of working with someone like that, right? So you started the whole thing saying the guy's a nut, right? If the guy was a nut at 16, why do we believe him now? Do we think that somehow he became less of a nut?
I should phrase it wrong. Not nut, just that he was different.
Right, and that's I'm going for the same thing, right?
Okay.
So, and then we somehow think that like he was hired to do something very sensitive because he was so talented. But does the talent offset the fact that like he's not reliable? I don't know. I tend to believe in Occam's razor. If you know Occam's razor, it's basically the idea that like you want to keep everything simple. The most simple solution is probably the right solution, right? The less complicated solution. So if this guy was high risk because he was unstable, but he was so brilliant that there was nobody else but him. If the government had to choose between that guy to keep a secret about aliens or somebody who was a little less credentialed but super secure, super reliable, who would they pick? I don't think they'd pick that guy. They'd pick somebody who's a little bit more stable. And then as I watch this guy's story and hear about it, like maybe he's right. Maybe he's 100% right. The predominant information that I see through my own assessment is that there's all sorts of incentives for him to keep talking about the story that he made up 25 years ago, right? That's the preponderance of the evidence that I see. Maybe he is right. There's a chance that he's right and I'm wrong. That's cool. I'm down with that, right? The whole thing about the agency and the whole thing about intel is probabilities. Even when we talked about the hierarchy, like here are your 5 most like worrisome students that we just talked about, that's just probabilities. There's a probability that he's right. There's a probability that he's not. So I am of the opinion that the probability is that Area 51 and what he says about Area 51 is less accurate than the truth of Area 51.
You know more than me. I just what I've seen, to me, it adds up. And when I said, I think they picked him because they could discredit him if need be.
And that's
just an opinion.
It's a valid point too, right?
And what makes me believe it is they said that there was no S4, but then he said in '89 there was no S4. Well, then in, I think, '97, it was like 10 years later or 8, they said that there has been an S4 and there was an S4. And he's saying this before anybody knows about S4. That molecule 115, now there's no 115. Now it's on the grid. So it's tough to discredit that.
No, I don't disagree.
Don't you think?
But there could be other reasons why he has that information.
Okay.
The information that he's sharing could be because he was on an early pilot program looking at it, right?
Right.
That doesn't necessarily, just because he was right about, molecule 115 doesn't mean he's also right about.
You have to look at the entire picture.
Right, and you have to take each piece of evidence as a piece of evidence. When someone says something that then comes true, that's called verifiable information.
Okay.
How many things has he said that didn't come true? The risk with most things is we have something called the availability heuristic. It's a cognitive bias. It's in our head. When we hear something, when something comes true that we previously heard, we put a lot of credit on it. But all the things that we never hear about again that we once heard in the past, we don't remember at all.
You just rained on my parade. I was dead set that you were going to be. I was dead set that you were going to say no. I think he's 100% true. But now I got a CIA agent, intelligence spy telling me he's full of shit.
Now, do you think the CIA, working for the CIA, and not to badmouth them, but do you think the CIA can sometimes do things? I'm not saying bad things, but distort reality. So
for the greater good,
for national security purposes, possibly.
I wouldn't say that any organization charged with protecting the country intentionally distorts information. But I will say that there's plenty of information that they would be incentivized not to share. It's the same thing with parenting kids, right? You don't lie to your kids about as many things as you just don't tell them.
Right.
You don't tell them something untrue about how much money you make. You just probably don't talk about how much money you make, right? You don't tell them. I know my kids for a long time didn't understand the concept of limited screen time. But they did understand the concept of sleep. So I would tell them the TV needs some sleep. The iPad needs some sleep, right?
Yeah.
Your tablet needs some sleep. And they understood that. I was reaching them at the level where they were.
That's good.
So, but human beings, we're not that
you catch
different.
on to that?
I like that.
You catch that move?
TV's tired. It needs to go to bed.
TV's tired.
And then
You get tired. Don't you get tired, baby?
It's going to burn out the TV.
And then correct me if I'm wrong. If you start that at a young age, now they look at the TV as them being tired, right?
Well, no, I'm not trying. So that's a step a little further than where I would go, right? At 3, they understand the concept of sleep. At 5 or 6, they start to understand the concept of time.
So you're done for at 6, right?
So now, which I'm telling them the TVs needs to go to sleep when they're 3 so that they'll listen.
Because they can relate to that, right?
And then when they're 6, I can be like, we know the TV's not alive. The TV doesn't need to sleep, but we want to put limits on how much we use the TV because of how much power we use, the lifespan of the TV, our own attention spans. We want to go outside. We don't want to just sit behind the TV all day. They understand that at 6.
What's the strategy at 6? I got the 3. Both of you, the TV sleeps just like you. It needs to sleep.
So then at 6,
so what's the move at 6?
Limits. We place limits. Who's in control? You or the TV, right? Who's the boss? Who's the boss?
You say that to the kid?
Yeah. Who's the boss of your body? They understand boss, right?
Do you have boys or girls?
I have a boy and a girl. My girl is 3. My boy is 6, which is probably why my girl can perform at my boy's level sometimes, right? But that's what you do. You approach them at their level. The agency teaches you how to do that with all human beings.
That's interesting.
Because here's the thing, right? A 30-year-old female is completely different in what they can relate to, depending on what country they're in, what socioeconomic class they're in, what level of education they've had, the culture of male and female roles in their country. I would love to treat every female the way that I treat my wife, with respect, talking to her with big words, challenging her perspective and her ideas, right? The fact is, if I talk that way to a female in the Middle East, I'm going to lose my hands.
Yeah.
Because I have no business talking to a female in the Middle East at all, right? If I talk to a female like that from someplace in like Ghana who's never been to college, who has a vocabulary that's 1/3 of my vocabulary, she's going to feel confused and lost. She's not going to know what to say. So we have to meet people where they are. It's not a hit on their intelligence. It's not to say that people are stupid. It's just to say you can't expect people to meet you where you are. So if you're trying to communicate your point, it's your responsibility to meet them at their own level.
Right. So if you're Andrew, the CIA agent, right? I'm not a CIA agent, so you have to come. It doesn't mean I'm an idiot, even though I am an idiot sometimes. But you have to. Not that I'm smart. It's not a battle of who's smart. It's just that you have to come to my level. That I'm not in the CIA.
Right.
So for me to comprehend anything you say, if you talk to me like you would talk to your wife, for example, I wouldn't have any clue what the hell you're saying.
Exactly.
So you have to not lower yourself. You just have to adapt to who you're talking to.
Yep. Find a common vocabulary. If you start talking to me,
that's a good point with kids.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's so powerful with everybody. I didn't learn it until the agency showed me how to do it with bad guys. You wanna win a bad guy over? You got to talk to them with bad guy language. You got to think about it through the eyes of a bad guy.
And that relates to everything.
That relates to everything in life.
That's interesting.
You want to close a client? Think about the deal from the client's perspective. You want to get somebody to show up on your show? Think about what your show brings them from their perspective.
Right.
Like, it's such a powerful thing.
If somebody's calling me to go on their show, you have to reverse roles and be them to achieve the mission.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee you, we could have a dozen conversations overnight where you would blow me away with your knowledge about stuff, and I wouldn't be able to keep up. Real estate, business. I mean, you've already shown that you have a huge knowledge base when it comes to like pharmaceuticals and different kinds of controlled substances that are used in the drug industry. You would lose me in an instant, man. You've talked about at least 3 big U.S. cases, like U.S. Criminal cases I knew nothing about. You would leave me behind in a heartbeat unless you adjusted to meet me at my level. And you're like, okay, this guy's smart in some things, not exposed to other things. So let's talk about something that we share in common.
You know where I relate that to? Machiavelli the Prince. You ever read that?
No.
Napoleon's you never. Well, I would think they would make you guys read that. God damn. I was positive they'd make you guys. Napoleon's Machiavelli? The Machiavellian?
I have not read it, man.
Holy shit. I was positive.
I'm going to put it on my reading list now.
I just struck out with a massive CIA guy.
No, I'm the one that struck out, dude. Are you kidding right now?
I would have bet on that one. I don't bet, but because it's all, I don't bet. That's why I don't have any stocks. That's why. How about Bitcoin? Fuck Bitcoin. That's such a scam.
Now we're talking the same thing.
I wouldn't buy. You could put a gun to my head right now, pull the trigger. I wouldn't buy it for 2 seconds. And it's sick what they're doing with it.
It's a safe investment vehicle because people are batshit crazy about it, right?
Yeah.
When other people are batshit crazy, that's an opportunity for you to make a bunch of money. But if you think that Bitcoin is someday going to be something you can touch and feel, like an asset, it's a cool vehicle, not an asset. Completely different.
Now we got the CIA guy in here. So here we go with this, right? This is the one to talk to. Okay. Now, here's my problem with Bitcoin, and I've said it on other podcasts. I don't care.
Okay.
I want to say it to the CIA.
Okay.
The CIA Andrew, who could have your girl if he wanted to, but he's married. Okay. Now, this Bitcoin bullshit, from what I know, and I read a lot about it, 3 guys manipulate it through algorithms. Nobody knows who it is, whatever. No government control. The IRS has to hate it. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't stepped in more than they have already. I mean, I can't believe it. It goes from 4K to 30K. Now, if you're rich, 30K, who cares, right? Nobody cares. But what about that person that took their 401K out, dropped the 30K? Now, this is all a scam. You can't touch the Bitcoin.
You can't touch
right?
it.
You can't feel it. You don't know who's behind it. You don't even know who was behind it, right? Okay? So now it goes from 4K to 30K through algorithms and or manipulation. That person who saved up 30 grand all their life goes and buys that one coin, thinking it's going to go to 50K.
Right.
Now it goes up to 40. Now, if he was a little bit sharper, he would have just taken that 40, profited on that 10, and run. In between the time from it going to 30 to 40, do his research that nobody knows who's behind it. It's a scam. It's a bunch of bullshit. And eventually the government's going to come in and fuck all of it up anyway, and it's not going to be Bitcoin. And furthermore, especially now, the way that they're printing money has to make you sick. I mean, they're printing money like it's leaves on a tree, which means the value of the dollar goes down. Well, when you cash out the Bitcoin, if you're not doing something illegal with it, if you're doing illegal shit with it, I guess it works. But if you're not doing anything illegal with it and trying to invest, when you go to cash that out, you're getting hit a percentage on the cash out. Now, if you're printing 1.9 trillion for whatever the hell he just did that for, and just print money left and right, inflation, the dollar goes down. What is Bitcoin? Because you got to cash it out.
Yeah.
Because there's never going to be a time that a Walmart, they might have Bitcoin for a couple months, then they take it off and on and off. But in general, there's never going to be a time where you can use that type of currency everywhere without government control, without a real backing. And now these people that took the money that they saved, their 401k, blah, 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 hoping that it keeps going up, and then bam, it goes down to 4,000, they lost everything. That's just fucked up to me.
Yeah, so, I mean, you touched on so many awesome topics right there, man. So just a few. Any currency that's primary use is criminal, like its primary utility. I'm not saying that it was made for criminals, but the people who use it the most effectively are criminals. Right? And we've been chasing that for a long time. FBI's been chasing that. CIA's been chasing that. I am not a fan of cryptocurrencies because it's helping children get stolen. It's helping women get raped. It's helping bad guys do bad things.
I hate it.
Right? So, and that's my first starting place. Like, I'm not going to support something that does that.
I didn't even think about that.
Even if it's awesome, I'm not going to support it.
I just thought about, people saving up their, working $10 an hour, $15 an hour and blowing all. But then when you throw that on top of it, now I really hate all the shit.
So then you got the whole, like, basic economics. And I get that most of us slept through economics. I slept through economics, right? My life was changed on the economic side when I got my MBA from a teacher that I respected, right? So Dr. Harris, if you're watching, after we've been talking for like an hour and 40 minutes, you're the shit. Anyways.
Shout out to Dr. Harris.
So all of economics is based on scarcity. If a resource isn't scarce, it has no value, right? So the thing that actually shifts the value of something is scarcity. When you're a nobody, you'll work for $7 an hour, right? When you're a celebrity, you're the only one of you. Now all of a sudden your hourly rate goes up to like, $50 million an hour or whatever, right? It's all about scarcity because there's only one. There's no scarcity in something like Bitcoin where anybody can mine for it. Anybody can do anything at any time. So how do they make it scarce? They start to artificially restrict it with algorithms. Gold is actually scarce. Gold is actually, you can mine every inch of this planet and there's a limited amount of gold. Oxygen is scarce. Time is scarce. Grass is scarce. Water is scarce. You leave the United States, you know what people want? Water, food, like energy, like power that comes from coal or that comes from water or that comes from some other source like wind. Scarce resources drive economics. There's no real scarcity with Bitcoin. So because there's no real scarcity, because there's nothing to actually back it, it is outside of the laws of economics, which means
there's no control.
When you associate it with something that has a law, you associate it with money that's backed by gold. You associate it with, coal that's backed by how fast something can happen, or like you compare it to any other commodity of trade. Every other commodity of trade is limited. Bitcoin's not limited. So it's easy to be sold the story that it's the next big resource.
Like you said earlier, it looks great off the rip, but what's the intel behind it? Right?
What's really going to happen with it?
And that has a baseline too.
So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to invest in Bitcoin as an investment vehicle, you're doing some smart stuff. You're playing a risky game, but you're doing some smart stuff. But if you think Bitcoin is going to be as good an investment as something that is actually physically scarce for a long play, I would not touch that.
Well, initially, I don't think it was meant to be an investment. I don't
think it was either.
That wasn't the purpose of it. The purpose of it was really, I think, to trade kind of for criminal stuff.
Well, I think the goal was to find a way to exchange money without all these different governments getting involved. That's an honorable idea.
Yeah.
For sure, right?
Right.
But, just because it was an honorable idea doesn't make it a good idea. Doesn't mean that it's effective yet. And just like we were talking about, like the iPhone, Apple released a phone that they knew did certain things to a market that they thought would be interested in it. It wasn't the perfect phone. And then when everybody bought it, they started making it better, right? That's how business works. It's first to market, right? It's not like making the best product. It's about making the product that meets the demand. Bitcoin was like, let's throw this thing out there, see what happens. People didn't like it for a long time. Then people started liking it, and they're like, oh, now we got to do something. Now we got to make it scarce. We got to hold it back. We got to limit it because otherwise it doesn't have any real value.
Yeah.
My question to anybody out there who's considering investing in Bitcoin, and here's what's mind-boggling. I think this is mind-boggling. There are people listening to us right now who think that you and I are full of shit, that Bitcoin is the way to go.
I know.
We will never convince them.
I know.
They've got their beliefs. And then you've got the people who are listening to us who agree with us 1,000%, and they think everybody else is stupid for investing in Bitcoin. We don't need to convince them either. Just like with politics, there's this group in the middle that's unsure, right? So the thing that boggles my mind is that until you are willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'll take this year's salary in Bitcoin instead of dollars. When you'll say that to yourself, go have fun with Bitcoin. Until then, I'm pretty sure you're going to say, oh, I'd rather get my salary in dollars and spend part of it on Bitcoin.
Yeah, part of it. Rob, I don't even think one. What percentage of people do you think we've had in here that said that agreed with Andrew and I?
Zero.
Nobody agrees with us?
And it's brought up almost, it doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't matter who it is. You've seen the channel, the different type of people that are in. I don't remember one person agreeing with me. Not one.
That is why, if you want to invest in an investment vehicle, go ahead and...
No, none. I said zero, but they all just believe that this will become
the future,
commonplace, and this is what it's...
You die. You would fall over.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be surprised what would make me die. I just kind of shake my head and be like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, there's going to be people who believe in the deep state. Yeah. There's going to be people who believe that, whatever, that we're all under some kind of crazy CIA mind control. There's always going to be fringe people.
Oh yeah, my accountant, great accountant. Shout out to Pybus and Company, does my taxes great. But he's very deep state guy.
Yeah, and that's fine, man. People can believe whatever they want to believe. We're in a free country. We're allowed to believe whatever we want. He's not losing any
money with the deep state, though, right? The Bitcoin you're getting screwed. You know, but. I feel bad. And the stock market, like blowing up like this, the real estate's going crazy. I mean, this is just, do you believe that this is a balloon that's about to pop?
Oh, yeah. I don't know anything about real estate. All I know is about patterns. And the patterns that I've seen.
I'm going by pattern as well. The stock market's up high. My buddy just got crushed. Crushed. I told him, Rob, how many times have I told people not to buy any stock right now? And I don't know shit about stocks, but I just see a pattern.
Yeah.
It's shooting up when all this is going on. The real estate market is off the hook. Guys have come up here and said that their real estate's more busy than ever. Their brokerage is more busy than ever. They're building like crazy. Gold is through the roof. They're buying buying cars, buying everything. How?
What goes up must come down, right?
It's the big cycle,
I mean,
and we got to also think about the geography of it all. This is paradise, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love where I live in the Tampa St. Pete area.
Yeah.
I drove to you over here on the
Appreciate
other coast.
That, by the way.
No way, man. And I was like, this is even better than where I live. So your studio is right on the coast, man. Like, this is heaven.
Yeah.
That's why stuff is blowing up here. You go to the armpit of America in some flyover state where they have a population of like 300 and not enough tax base to even take care of their roads and their schools. No one's going to invest in that. No one's going to buy there. Yeah. They're not seeing a booming real estate market, right? Coronavirus has thrown everything upside down. People think that there's going to be like this massive shift to working remotely, even if there will be a big shift, right? But companies know that they have tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars invested in business real estate. They're not just going to let that go away.
Right.
They're going to get people back in the office. And if you want to stay home, they're going to give you that option at 3/4 of your original pay. And you're expected to have a minimum
Because they
Wi-Fi.
already have money invested in you coming in.
They want to incentivize you to come back into the office. So everybody who left California to go live in Idaho, have fun, your company's going to call you back. And when you try to say, no, I want to be remote, your salary is going to get cut down by 30%. That's the law of economics.
It's just the
Dr.
law
Harris.
of the land. Yeah, Dr. Harris. So as we were talking about Lazar, you don't believe him. Do you believe that spacecraft has been here from other planets?
There has to be life. Laws of probability, there has to be alien life. If it happened here, and the universe is so much bigger than we have any concept of, then it happens somewhere else.
There's like a billion Earth-like planets.
But
you know.
the same probabilities apply. Like, what are the chances that one of those planets have specifically visited this place? There is a chance, right? And if they are so advanced that they can make it here, then they're probably so advanced that we wouldn't even know it. There's a story out there that says that when, I think it was Columbus, when Columbus first landed on the New World, and he sailed these 3 massive Spaniard ships up on the coast, that the Indians at the time, the Native Americans who were there on the coast, were completely blind to the ships. It was so foreign to them, so outside of anything they could have ever imagined. They basically didn't even see it. So why didn't they throw spears? Why didn't they fight? Why didn't they do any of that? They didn't even see it coming. They didn't even recognize what it was. Is that a wave? Is that a whale? Is that an animal? We don't know, but it's not hurting us.
Are you familiar with the tic-tac-toe thing that the pilot saw?
Yes, the tic-tac.
Okay, now, do you think that is something that we were testing, or do you think that is from
it could
not
be
here?
I think so. My stance on a lot of UFO, I believe in unidentified flying objects. I don't believe they're always alien. If they are truly alien, I would imagine that they're so advanced, they're not going to be detected by us, right? The more probable, more realistic explanation is that it is something someone is testing. The Russians, the Americans, the Chinese, someone created something advanced, and they're testing it. They didn't expect an audience, but they're testing it. Cruise missiles, guided missiles, high-performance drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. Like, there's amazing technology that everybody is developing in secret. That is far more likely the thing that we come across that we call alien life. I love that we call it unidentified flying object. I love that we call it, there's another word for it, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP.
Extraterrestrial. It just goes on and on.
But the things that we can't explain, I love it when we say we can't explain it. My concern becomes when we start saying it must be alien life. Well, it could just be some genius, like prisoner in the basement of some Russian war lab who created like a drone that can fly at high speeds in any direction. We don't know.
And defy gravity and all that. But you won't know. So you think that there is other life. You think that UFOs from other planets may have been here, but we wouldn't be able to detect them, because if they could get here, that would mean that they would have
They're
to
so
be
advanced.
10 million years, 100 million years, advanced.
Yeah.
Above it, that we wouldn't even know that they were here.
Yeah, and I don't even know why we think that alien life is going to look anything like the life that we think of. For all we know, alien life is going to look like a shadow.
Right.
We don't have any idea. Like, it's so different from us. We have no idea what alien life would look like. I try to think of myself sometimes as like an ant, because we have ant hills that pop up in the summertime.
Ants are interesting.
Ants are interesting, right? They live in their own little 2,000, 20,000 person ant farm underground, and there's a little hill at the top where they all come out. You and me walk by those anthills all day long. It doesn't bother them at all. They do their thing. You have to manually mess with their hill before they take any action.
Yeah.
What makes us think that we're not the ants and the alien is us? Just out there, so big, so different. Why do we think they have to be in our atmosphere to see us? They could be 2 galaxies away and maybe be watching us.
And have the technology.
Why do we think their ship is going to be the size of our ship? Their ship might be microscopic. Their ship might be as big as like our planet, for all we know, right? As big as our planet with no gravitational pull. It's mind-boggling, the opportunities, and that's why when I look at the probabilities, I have to stick with probabilities to me that I can sink my teeth into objectively. And there's all sorts of examples throughout history of people developing awesome technology that was mistaken as a UFO and then found to be something later.
Now, do you think what Elon Musk is doing with this Mars, do you think that that's pointless, or do you think there's point to it?
I like the idea of us trying to explore our galaxy more. It was heartbreaking when we stopped funding space exploration, right?
Who called that off?
Oh, that was it Bush?
Bush?
I feel like it was Bush.
I think it was Bush 1, right?
Because of
Bush 2 kind of just
we just couldn't keep funding it, right?
Yeah.
And the government is not effective at spending dollars.
Right. We know that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to me that private industry came in and did it better, and now we're doing amazing things that the government would have taken 6 times as long to do.
Yeah, well, Musk is shooting rockets up and it's returning and reusable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some shit there.
But the guy is still doing some stupid stuff too, right?
Yeah,
Sending cars into space just to destroy them.
Yeah,
Whatever.
he's got a Tesla. That's yeah.
Rotating the sun or something.
Yeah, he could probably explain it better. I think you could pull it up as long as it's not on YouTube. He sent his car to.
Was it a Model 5 or something? It was a new model that
it
was in demand.
Yeah, there was in demand that people were on waiting, and
Tesla Roadster.
yeah, but that
that's it.
Yeah.
$1,000 Roadster he sent to space.
Yeah.
Just
If
because he can.
If you could find one not on YouTube, you can play it. There's SpaceX. No, it's fucking slow.
15.6 million miles from Earth and is traveling at the speed of more than 6,000 miles per hour. Until this roadster is closest to Mars right now.
Oh, so it's close to Mars. So maybe he's like trying to find the car that's near Mars.
No, he can see it. He's got cameras on it.
Setting up
click
his-
on that one
his
right
garage.
there, Inc.com.
Where?
Right there. I want to see if it shows it. He came into Rogan with fire,
Nothing.
shooting those fire bombs. Yeah, he's funny. and in the Tesla, there's a button that makes it fart.
Oh my gosh.
He's just a goofball.
But yeah, so that's one of those. I mean, I feel
Go
like
to images. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's one of those examples of people do crazy stuff because they're crazy. Like,
That's
brilliant.
right there to the left.
This one?
That's a real picture right there. Yeah, yeah. He was on. That's real. So he's got a camera right there and everything, and it's yeah. That's all. That's a real picture right there. Yeah. That's crazy though. He sent us, but he's
So somewhere there's alien life sitting out there wondering
What the hell is this?
what
thing?
the hell?
Yeah,
Yeah.
are these people, are they smart or are they not smart? Is that an experiment? Like, I would love to see. I wonder if it's kind of like during the Cold War, where
Mhm.
both Russia and the U.S. were like watching each other, and then one side would do something that the other side thinks is crazy, and they would immediately wonder, is that some sort of brilliance that we need to start experimenting with, right? So I wonder if there's like some alien life form out there that's like, they launched something wasteful into space. Have we done that before? Let's go try that.
That's how I feel like some social media things are. Like they start a social media thing, like let's just see if it takes off.
see.
Like TikTok. Oh, let's see. This seems silly. This seems silly. Now everybody's doing TikTok, or some of these other things that have failed in the past. Like it's just throwing it out there, see if it sticks. Will it work? Will the mass public use it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the quantum theorics guys, Brian Cox, one of his hypotheses was the other life that is 10 million years, maybe even 100 million more advanced than us. To them, we're like ants. Like, who cares about the
Yep.
ant? What do they have to come here and gain?
Right.
That was one of his things. Like, he kind of like you had said earlier. Like, he gets a lot of shit, but he's actually the number one quantum theory scientist, whatever. And he gets a lot of shit because he'll say like 10 different hypotheses, all which could be
Any of them could work.
but he puts them all out there to then, like you were stating earlier, to get feedback from others on
Yeah.
his, professional level, to get the feedback, to see what they think, and then combine all of the thoughts from like CIA agents. You
Yeah.
combine all of the thoughts, all of the intel, and then kind of come up with a conclusion.
Yep, that's a perfect example. Your analysis of competing hypotheses, your ACH. That's exactly how it works. You bring in experts, you find the intel, you find the facts that can back it up instead of just guessing. One person guessing is never going to be as good as 5 people collecting facts and comparing it.
Yeah, you got to get the
objectively.
intel from everybody, especially with something like that, because it's so hit or miss,
Yeah.
or it's so iffy.
Yeah.
Because there's no proof. There's it's half. So back to your spy in the CIA. Before I take it down a space rabbit hole, which you'll be here till 9 o'clock at night.
There's a Bitcoin rabbit hole into a space rabbit hole.
Because
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that dimension thing and everything else. It's just interesting to me.
Anything's possible, man. I love the fact that anything's possible.
One last thing, I got to
Yeah.
ask the CIA agent. Deja vu.
Okay.
Do you think that might be another dimension?
I wonder if deja vu is us tapping into something from another life. There's some cool.
So kind of the same thing.
Yeah, like we call it a dimension because we don't know what else to call it.
Right.
Right. We visualize this like parallel
Yeah, another life,
universe,
same
but we don't
thing,
really
yeah.
know what it is, right? So it could be anything. But there's some cool science out there that talks about, people who are able to, state memories and experiences that happened in reality that can be documented, but they happened to somebody else like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff out there that talks about it. Like, again, I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm saying there's enough evidence out there that I'm willing to put it on an ACH.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. It again, the brain is so amazing. Why do we think that the best thing that it can be used for is just living day to day?
Right.
It can be used. Who knows what the power is of the brain? Who knows what's stashed or stored up there? For all we know, maybe memories are genetic. Maybe our mom and our dad passed down memories, like somehow biologically, into our own brains. I have no idea. I'm just
or maybe
pulling
it's
that
all
out.
simulation.
Maybe we're all
A
in
game.
a petri dish.
I had to throw that at him.
A petri dish of an alien life, and that's why we never see aliens.
Yeah, but maybe this is just all like a video game,
Maybe
like
it is.
Minecraft.
We have no idea, and we have to a certain extent. For me, I feel like there are elements
Yeah,
that I can touch. There are elements that I have control over, and then there's elements I don't have control over.
and you just keep an open mind.
And what I got to do exactly, I maximize my leverage over what I can control. I offset the risk of what I can't control. And if I can't control something that poses no immediate risk, to hell with it, right? Aliens, crazy super viruses, I have no control over those things. Why am I going to waste my time, energy, effort, or money worrying about them when I've got 3 mouths to feed. I've got kids that need to be raised with love and attention. I've got a business that I believe in. That's where I'm going to put my effort and my time. It's all the other stuff. I'll let other people waste their time and effort on that.
So, out of the 18 countries you've been to, which when not visiting, when you were doing an operation, which one was your favorite one? And I don't. You got to be very broad with what you say about what you did, right? Even though you're done with them, you got to be extremely broad.
I have a lifetime secrecy agreement.
Yeah.
And one of the things on that secrecy agreement is I can't talk about the countries where I operated.
No problem.
So, but
Yeah,
I will
go
say
ahead.
this: my favorite region of the world,
Yeah.
favorite region of the entire world, is Southeast Asia.
Really, I wouldn't have thought that.
I love it. I love Southeast Asia. And the favorite country I've ever been to, non-operational, was New Zealand.
Really,
New Zealand's a spectacular place to be.
you've heard that too?
Yeah, I've heard New Zealand.
Yeah, just a spectacular place to be. And I'll be fully honest, I have not explored the Pacific Northwest. They say the Pacific Northwest is a lot like New Zealand, so I've got to go up there and check it out. But man,
New Zealand, huh?
and Southeast Asia, if you get a chance to visit, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, I already said
I've
Burma,
actually
but
heard Cambodia is pretty nice.
amazing. People
Yeah.
are amazing. It's beautiful. It's historic. It's old. It's
Better,
jungle.
better than Lebanon?
Yeah, there's less bullets flying at you too.
Okay, so then you're a Fortune 10 corporate advisor.
I was. Yep. That's when I left the agency.
Yeah.
I was able to
Damn.
move into corporate America. It was an awkward transition because you don't have any skills you can talk about when you leave the agency. I was still undercover when I left. It takes 2 years to roll back your cover.
Oh, really?
So I had a fake resume that the agency wrote for me. I had
At least they did that for you.
yeah, nobody I could talk. And it was a crappy resume.
Yeah.
So I was able to just use the skills the same skills that you use to get a terrorist to trust you, and you get a weapons dealer to trust you, or anybody else to trust you. Man, if you could
Applied it to business.
talk to a hiring manager, get them to trust you, you got the job.
And what was that job?
So I was an IT project manager for CVS Health, which at the
Oh, wow.
time was in pharmacy and also in pharmaceutical benefits management, PBM.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about project management. I knew nothing about PBM. I knew nothing about CVS Health. But I knew how to get somebody to trust me and give me a shot because I know I can learn anything. People can learn anything. They just have to believe it and do it.
Yeah, and put your mind to it and don't give up. That's the
Yeah,
biggest thing. Isn't it?
exactly.
To me, I think it is not give up at all.
Yeah,
You know?
there is a very real law of attrition. And if you can be the last man standing, you win. Right?
Well, I mean, I think, and your podcast is top 100 on iTunes.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate. My podcast is broken into the iTunes top
I
100
think that's
over the entire, in all of iTunes. You never stay there for very long. Well, unless you're Joe Rogan, you stay there for a while.
Yeah,
But
go to Everyday Espionage. It's the
Everyday Spy.
no, I want to show
Oh,
them
the podcast.
That one, right?
The
Next
iTunes.
one.
Yeah.
Next one. To the right. Yeah. So this is the one.
Yeah. So in my category, that self-improvement category, I'm consistently top 100. And then depending on the download, depending on the day, I've had episodes and the entire podcast break into the iTunes top 100. And it's exciting when it happens because you grow like wildfire.
Now, how often do you release these?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks on Tuesday, I'll release a new one. Okay.
Okay, so you have that, and I see if you go, Rob, if you go to the left of that, somebody you can advertise on your channel, right? Did you know that was there?
No, I did not know that.
So I could click there because I was, researching
Uh-huh.
everything that it sent, and you can click there, and I can pay to advertise on your podcast.
Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you on Spotify?
I'm on
And
everything.
You're on everything?
Yeah.
I have them all here. They'll all be in the description.
Google, Spotify, right there, Apple Podcasts. Google,
Yeah.
Spotify.
I've got it all, man. It's been an awesome experience. This is how everything started for me, my business. Everything started when I approached a nonprofit in my hometown in St. Petersburg. And I was like, hey, I just want to teach some people about the history of espionage. And I had like 5 nonprofits say no. And then I had one say sure. And then the Tampa Bay Times picked it up.
Boom.
And all of a sudden I had, 100 people in a room overnight.
From you, what is espionage? I mean, I know what it is, but I want to hear it from like you.
Espionage is the act of stealing proprietary secrets. That is espionage. Doesn't matter where the secrets are. You're stealing them from a government, you're talking about government espionage. Stealing from a corporation, corporate espionage. Stealing them out of an industry, industrial espionage. Secrets are there to be protected. If you are actively stealing them, theft.
So stealing information from the government is espionage,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah.
What do you think of the big guy? He was. How can I not think of his name? He's got glasses on. He was on Rogan from somewhere. I think he's in Russia right now.
Oh, you're talking about Snowden?
Edward Snowden.
Snowden?
Now, what's your thoughts on him?
Snowden's one of those guys that I feel like he did the right thing the wrong way, right? If you see the government abusing their reach, which he saw, federal courts came out, the courts looked at it, and the courts all confirmed it was an illegal program, right? He did the right thing by blowing the whistle. But you don't do it by going to the Guardian, right? You do it through internal channels. And there are people who say, he has said he tried to do it through internal channels and didn't get taken seriously. There are other internal channels. Like, you got to exhaust every opportunity, because if you don't, you run the risk of discrediting yourself. Now forever, right? Forever, Snowden's not welcome here.
Yeah, he's on the run forever, really.
Forever, man, right?
Yeah.
Like, he did the right thing, but because he did it the wrong way, the whole thing fell apart.
Did the right thing, but presented it the wrong way.
Right. It's the same. It's vigilante justice, right?
Yeah.
If you know the guy down the street beats his kids, that does not give you the right to go beat his ass.
Right.
You can call the police and say the guy beats his kids. The police can go knock on the door and, sir, do you beat your kids? No, I don't. And, oh, okay. Nothing I can do there. You just got to keep trying, right? You call the FBI. You set up a camera of your own, right, outside of his window, record him beating his kids, and then give that to the cops and say, I told you this is happening. You got to exhaust every option before you break the law. Because once you break the law, you're culpable.
And now he's on the run from country to country that are giving him 3 years here, 3 years there.
That sucks. And you know what? Is he in the pocket of somebody else? I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't care. It's his problem. And I just hope that...
And he's one guy.
Yeah.
Not a force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that whoever out there is, going to blow the whistle on the next illegal program does not follow in his shoes.
Now, this is your personal homepage, right?
Yeah, this is my personal page. So I'm a private intelligence contractor. So
Okay.
part of the reason I'm all fuzzy right now is because I have a private intelligence contract coming up.
So, in other words, if I want to find somebody, I could hire you?
Well, you would hire me. That would be more for like a PI. If you
Okay.
wanted to use intelligence disciplines to boost your business, to get the edge on your competitors, to boost your personal security, the security status of your family, right? We do a lot of stuff with high net worth folks. We do a lot of stuff with corporate companies that want to instill leadership training that's different than the standard leadership training.
Okay. Would that be on EverydaySpy?
That's all here.
That's all here?
However people find me, they find their way into both universes. But me as an individual, right, I will help anybody who wants it, but the price point for me as an individual is quite different than the price point for the products at the website.
Completely understandable. Yeah. So again, what can I hire you for?
If you
in regards to this.
So let me give you an example, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make contact with somebody that you just can't make contact with, right? You can hire me for that, and I can find out, we can target that person through everything social media, totally legal, right? But instead of telling you who's cheating on you or who your wife's, whatever is, you want this person to be an investor or a contact for your business, we can build the whole operation to make that happen. That's worth $15,000, $20,000 to have somebody come in and become an investor for you, We'll find everything about that person, find out where they're going to be, who they're going to be talking to, who their friends are, who their network is, all the stuff you can't do because you don't know how, because you're running a business. We can put all that together and then set you up with a targeting package, just like we do in the field.
Wow.
Right? That's one example. If you're a corporation, if you're a large corporation, we have non-disclosures with multiple corporations out in Silicon Valley.
Right.
They just want personal executive protection. They want analysis. They want international threat security. They want marketing insights that are based in espionage instead of based in regular business, because all their competition is running marketing campaigns the same way as everybody else. How do we use the stuff that you and I talk about, perception, perspective, mission readiness, strategic thinking, ACH, how do we use these skills in everyday life to give our corporation an edge?
So kind of like a PI for a business.
So, I stay away from the word PI specifically because
You're not a private investigator.
investigators investigate. They don't
Yeah.
take any action. We take action. We are operators.
So you would be hired to build a strategy to achieve your goal,
And then execute that
And then
strategy.
execute
or
and-
guide that team through their own execution.
to complete the mission, right?
Right, exactly. So and nobody's doing it in
And
the
that's
CIA
what this
space.
webpage is for.
Correct. And
Yeah.
this will point you to everything else. But the way that my world works, people find me,
Yeah,
right? If you go to my appearances page,
that's really awesome.
Like,
I
I'll-
really like that strategy. That
oh,
you got
thanks, man.
going
But
on.
I'm going to be on ABC tomorrow, right?
Are you really?
Yeah. So ABC's got a
congratulations.
thanks, man. They've got a show at 8 p.m. called To Tell the Truth. Yeah, right here. Right.
Okay.
The show has like millions of people who watch it. I think it's 2.8 million people or something.
Wow.
So I'll make a featured appearance on a show like that. 2.8 million people find me. 10% of those people care enough to look me up. 10% of those people care enough to sign up for one of my things. I have a bunch of new leads that then turn into business.
Now,
People find me.
Did you get your cell phone there?
No, they found me.
They found you?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to be found by ABC, Discovery, NBC, the Tampa Bay Tribune. Like, people find me because there's not a lot of CIA officers out there
Yeah.
just opening up a conversation about something other than how awesome they are.
Right.
I'm
You
not
know,
awesome, man. I'm just a dude that got lucky.
Worked his ass off and now is taking it.
Exactly.
I saw you were on the Now. I used to work for a local NBC affiliate when we ran the Now, and I believe Ashley Glass or someone like that. Maybe
Yep, it was Ashley, exactly.
I know through news connections. I remember her.
Yeah. So it's been awesome because it gives me a chance to live my own mantra, right? I try to tell people, look, there's a concept that we're taught at the agency called operational sufficiency. And that means when you operate, you are already fully sufficient. No matter what you think, you have been trained, you have been primed, you have been prepared, you are sufficient. Because in our everyday life, we walk around all the time thinking about what we still need. I need more money. I need more time. I need more attention. I can't do this yet because I'm not ready. That's all baloney. That's what's called, that's conventional thinking, right? A limited mindset. Agency teaches us, like, hey, you are sufficient and operation sufficient. So you go out and do whatever the hell you got to do to get the mission done.
Now, are they making you do this on Zoom?
I do a lot of it on Zoom.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, are you doing tomorrow on Zoom?
No, tomorrow I went to the studio. They flew me to California like 2 months ago to do the shoot.
Wow, they're open. Do they actually have something open there?
No. I flew into California. I spent 3 days in quarantine. I took 4 tests.
Fuck that place.
I went down to the studio. I took another thermometer, like another temperature test, hung out in my studio. It was not the glamorous life you would think, right? But it was a sweet show. Like, if you get a chance to watch it,
This is tomorrow. you said?
tomorrow at 8,
I'll watch
it's
it.
pretty badass.
Oh, it's already done. Oh, so it's already been.
yeah, it's
tomorrow at
already
8.
been recorded, so I know what you're going to see. It's just a matter of how they cut it.
Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow,
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that.
8 p.m. Don't care if you're watching this. I'm watching it, so I'm noting it on ABC. Right.
You got it, man.
I will be watching it.
Thanks, dude.
Okay. So now here's your Everyday Spy website.
Right. So this is my direct-to-consumer website. This is
Okay.
where I just take all the knowledge I have, the stuff that people pay me $10,000, $20,000 to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
I can put that into an accessible package for everyday people, and that's what I do here. So whether it's talking to other spies like me, which you saw up there with shadow lessons, if you want to learn how to develop right there the shadow lessons on the lower right. Yeah. So that's me interviewing other CIA and KGB officers about the stuff that we do, just to break it down for everyday people. I have a course on influence. I have a course, you and I were talking about how you can't trust the media. I have a whole course on exactly why and how you can't trust the media and how you can take headlines and actually find the facts inside them yourself.
And how to dissect
And
it.
how to dissect it, how to do it yourself. And that's
That's
something that we do at the agency. There's no reason everyday people shouldn't know how to do this.
Okay,
It's-
so if I want that, go back up, Rob, to the top, and let's start with Spycraft.
Okay? So
'Cause
Spycraft,
this is some pretty cool shit.
Spycraft is all of my
Damn, you do a lot of stuff.
all of my free skills are right there. Anything you want to learn about a spy skill in any of those categories is there. And they're always adding, right? Your spy hacks are essentially your life hacks that how spies use them, right? Whether it's energy based or whether it's time based or whether it's like actually getting around a blocked VPN.
What do you think about a VPN?
VPNs are great. They're similar to the encryption, right? If the source that's logging into the VPN is already compromised, VPN doesn't help you. But if you're transmitting something over a VPN, it should be pretty safe.
Like ExpressVPN, is that shit? NordVPN shit?
I think those are pretty quality.
Do you?
Yeah, but you have to. It's once you're in their space. Once you're inside the VPN, you're safe. It's getting into that VPN. If your
Because
computer's compromised, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've been hacked, it doesn't matter if you're VPNing or not. You're done. And then this is my actual direct to retail stuff. So if
Okay,
folks
so-
want to learn any of my stuff, this is where they go.
So what is this? These are all books here?
Courses. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, these
Online
are
courses.
courses.
hmm So OpThink it's a $1,000 course.
Right.
It's
so,
a 30 lesson 10-week course that transforms how you think about everything.
click on learn more there.
Yeah, it teaches you how to think like a spy. So all the stuff you and I were covering today,
Yeah.
this is like not just about how it works, but like getting into it.
Okay, so I buy this, and then what, you contact me?
And then it gets delivered right to you. You get a login to my private member back area, and we're off to the races.
It's one-on-one?
It's not, I don't coach. This is all digital. It's all pre-programmed.
Oh, it's all pre-programmed.
What happens is if you finish one of my courses, right, then you get it, and inside the course it'll give you directions to contact me with any questions. Like I get to watch your progress.
Yeah.
So it's not like a direct coaching, because I believe in scaling. For all you business types out there that are business geeks, I want to scale my business. I don't want to serve 2 people. I want to serve 2 million people.
Right.
Only way I can do that is by scaling with things like this. From these, I do have live events. So just yesterday, I'm a little hoarse today, because just yesterday I finished a 2-day spy training course in St. Petersburg called Streetcraft, where people can come in, people in my audience who have graduated one of these courses. I invite them to come do an in-person live event where I teach them for 4 hours about how to execute specific espionage skills, human intelligence, tradecraft skills, and then I put them into an operation, a real street side operation.
That'd be cool.
And
That'd
they
be
go out there
fucking
and
cool.
they do a dead drop. They try to evade surveillance. They send signals. They meet an asset. They try to bump somebody that's a stranger, all without getting caught. And there's no safety nets. I take away all of their personal information. I take their phone, their wallet, their money.
So you would send me out there.
I would
that-
give
that-
you a different name. I'd put you in alias.
We gotta do that,
I
Rob.
like that. Yeah, that's cool.
And then
That's good, man.
And I have another course that comes after that, or comes along with that, called Ghost Tactics, where I teach you how to go ghost, how to disappear from anywhere. That's actually happening in April, if you want to come.
Yeah.
And I'm going to teach you tactical
yeah.
driving, tactical shooting, tactical disguise, with some of my former MARSOC friends on an actual military base, a special ops base up in Central Florida.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So-
You gotta text that to me so I can put that in the description.
Okay, man, you got
Yeah,
it.
but that's the kind of thing I'm down with. I don't want to go walk around in circles. I'd rather work.
Yeah.
Walking in circles on the street isn't paying the bill, so we're gonna work and learn something. Go back to his site again. So, and what's cool is even though it's $1,000, you have that forever, right?
You have that
so you
forever.
can always go back and look and refresh your mind.
Exactly.
And then,
And then that's the same thing right there.
there was another one up there. So Spy Tribe.
Spy Tribe is kind of, so that's what the community calls themselves once they start getting into this. So here's what I love about my business. Nobody trusts CIA at first. Nobody thinks I'm real CIA at first. They all go into this, when they're interested, they all go into this vetting process where they vet that I'm really who I am. It doesn't take long before you get plenty of confirmation I am who I say I am. And then they get into the ecosystem. They test my content. They love my content. All of my products, get this, dude, all of my products come with a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like it, I will give you your money back and you still keep the entire product. You still keep your lifetime access forever. I'll just give you your money
That
back.
means you're extremely confident in the. I mean, I haven't heard that in 20 years.
I heard that. I don't know what.
Because I know I'm the only one producing this stuff. I
Yeah.
know that the people who know that it's real know that it's real. And if you want to buy my stuff and then ask for a refund to try to screw me, you think you're outsmarting me. All you did was cut off your access to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time on somebody who asked for my money back because they thought they were getting their $1,000 back. I don't care about that person. Like, I care about the person who spent $1,000 and changed their life, and now they want to do something else.
Because that person trying to screw you is just
They've already lost.
he's not serious anyway. So it's a plus for you.
Yep.
Because you're not going to waste your time with somebody who isn't serious.
Right. If I bring that person out to my live spy event that I had this weekend, that's the person who's going to
Discredit.
He's going to dog it.
Yeah.
Or she's going to dog it. They're not going to try their hardest. They're going to fall asleep in class. They're not going to learn what they need to learn. They're going to let the team down.
That's what. Yeah.
I owe it to the other people at the table to bring in the best.
So then it would be beneficial just to say, hey, take your money back, keep the thing. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. You want to do it.
And
To
don't
me?
get any wrong ideas. This guy could probably whack you in 0.2 seconds.
You want
if
to
you
do it.
wanted to.
If you want to come in and buy all my stuff and ask for refunds on all my stuff, you're not the first. Go for it. Like it's
That's not me.
yeah. Well, it's not.
Yeah,
no, it's not you,
but I mean, there's tons of people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's my guarantee.
But if you really want to learn, I like the fact of the business aspect that this can bring, not just spy CIA guy, but using those skills to better your business.
exactly right.
I
And my business
even
has
know.
grown using the principles that we've taught. Every principle is based in professional intelligence. That's why CIA doesn't give me a hard time. I'm teaching people how to use intelligence techniques and tactics to build their life and to build their business. CIA only cares if I teach people those tactics to steal secrets.
yeah.
So that's not what I teach.
Did they ever call you and say, hey, calm down a little bit?
Yeah, I've gotten emails and phone calls that are like, hey, we like this, do more of this, we're shutting that down. Oh, okay.
And that's the
fair.
end of it.
That's the end of it.
And then you
Is there an appeal process? No.
and then you got a game.
Yeah.
You got a game. Okay, so
So this is my free for everybody game. This is for all those
if
people
he hits
out
start, if he hits start mission, it will
Yep.
work.
there. There you go. You put in your email address, and I am going to send you. You start. It's essentially a simulated spy mission. So you're going to get faced with information, and in video form, I'm going to give you a task. I'm going to give you information about this country and the op that you're running in this country, and then we're going to take it step by step. Every time you finish a task, you get a new task, a new video, new information. If you fail the task, you got to go back and try it again. You get a notification that says that wasn't the right answer.
That's pretty cool.
This game,
I'm signing up when I go home.
do it, man. So this game
I am too.
is built on the exact same premise that we had at the agency. So you were talking about how training works. We interview, we get in, then they start putting us through training exercises to see what we're capable of. This game has a 95% fail rate.
Really?
People sign up, 95% of them never make it through the first task.
Really?
Yep.
I'm going to play it tonight.
They don't finish. And they don't. It's not because it's hard, man. You'll see when you get in there.
I'm going to take my modafinil, which is prescribed. Brand name Provigil, prescribed 200 milligrams a day, and I'm going to try to play it.
Yeah,
you ever
man.
take modafinil?
No.
I'm surprised CIA doesn't take that.
We try to live off of it, like
Just
all organic, all natural, like
it's,
life,
It's
man.
clean. It's just the pilots used
Mm.
to take it.
Mm.
Do you know which one I'm talking
No.
about? They call it like the limitless drug. It came out in 1956.
I'll look it up.
Pilots took it to be able to stay awake on long flights. Some military took it. Not one overdose.
Wow.
You can't get addicted. I mean, you can get addicted, I guess, in the scenario that you don't feel as intelligent or concentration-ish,
Yeah.
which isn't even a word.
It's focused.
Yeah, it's focused without it, but there's no withdrawal or anything like that. And if you do take too much, you're going to get such a bad headache that
Oof.
you don't even,
Wanna
you won't
mess with
even.
it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how to explain it. It's not like I drank a Monster drink.
I'm with you.
It's been proven to correct. I'll tell you a quick story, just real quick.
Because I was gonna say I can look it up for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, so it came out as a narcolepsy drug. Okay,
Mm.
but it was actually made for like athletes, but they couldn't do it because it worked too well. So then they labeled it as a narcolepsy drug, right? Well, over time they found that it did a lot more than just that. Now at the time, in 2001, it was $30 for 3,200 milligram pills. At the time, it wasn't really prescribed off label.
Mm.
It was pretty much just for narcolepsy. Well, this biohacking and
Mhm.
all that stuff started happening, and they found that it works successfully for cocaine addiction,
Wow.
meth addiction, anti-social. Like if you're, you
Mhm.
don't like being in social atmospheres, if you're antisocial, ADHD. I mean, there's a lot. Depression, alcoholism. I mean, there's literally 10 or 15 things that, and this isn't like WebMD.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
NCIB,
Okay.
like where it's legit
Yep.
shit.
Yep.
And oddly enough, when this started coming out and therapists and so on and so forth started prescribing this for cocaine addiction, ADHD, antisocial, lack of motivation, so on and so forth, the drug companies realized what was happening because now
Of course.
they weren't giving Adderall, which is addictive, right? Because they're giving modafinil, which you're not going to get addictive to. Because if I give you Adderall to get you off Adderall, now I'm going to probably have to give you a benzo, like a Xanax, so you don't withdraw. Then I'm going to have to lower you down to a Klonopin, which is less stronger than Xanax. So you see, it's a pharmaceutical trickle.
Yeah.
Money,
yeah,
money,
yeah.
money, money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now you could give this one drug that can pretty much do the same thing as
And
these
skip
addictive
everything
drugs.
else.
So now what happens? You go to the pharmacy, you get $1,200 for 30
Because they want to
Just
make
like
back.
that.
They want to make it back.
because they don't want you to have a drug that isn't addictive that does these
Yeah.
things.
I mean, that's the money. That's
it
the ascension
doesn't-
ladder, man.
and it really it's been proven to up your
That's
IQ while it's
crazy.
active.
Wow.
It's in and out in 6 hours.
That's
I've
crazy.
taken it 20 years straight.
So definitely, like, take it, take the test, take the game.
I'm sure it will beat me, but
I-
talking all this shit here, I'll probably get rocked.
I don't think the game's gonna beat you, man, because I don't think you're gonna give up. That's the thing.
Yeah,
This game
it takes
just
a lot for me
all
to
it
give
does
up.
is test people's their tolerance to not give up.
I would probably stay up if I decided I was going to win this. You can ask Rob.
Yeah,
I'd
it'll be
be
until 3 days from now.
Final Cut. Do you use Final Cut at all?
I don't use anything, man.
I mean, for your YouTube.
Oh no, my YouTube is. I do all my YouTube one take.
Oh,
Yeah, I have
Final
one
Cut's
video.
pretty hard.
I
And I
have-
stayed up for 2 days straight, slept 2 hours. You can ask him and learn in 2 days. Some people
Wow.
go to school for it, but when I decide,
it's
that's
over.
it. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's not so good.
I'm not gonna hear from Tommy for the next 3 days.
Yeah,
Hey, I beat that game. What?
yeah.
Well,
and I'm coming in with bags in my eyes. I don't know what to ask the guy that's sitting across from
That's
me.
awesome, man. Well, yeah. So I'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll definitely let you know the details on our ghost tactics exercise or tactical
Yes.
driving and shooting. I
Yeah.
mean, you're gonna friggin' if you like getting busy, man, you're gonna love the MARSOC guys out there that we start when we pull out the weapons and the high performance vehicles. You're gonna love it.
Oh yeah. No, you got some shit going on.
It's fun, man. It's fun, and that's the reason I do it. I left the agency because I had a family I wanted to take care of. I wanted to be a dad and a husband more than I wanted to be.
Yeah, well, you had enough.
Oh,
Yeah,
a
you had
hero,
you
yeah.
had the pilot, military. You had
Mhm.
the CIA. Now you
And
got
now-
to live all that. You've been everywhere. You've done things that very few people get to do, and now you can take that with you. And now you found the niche
And
that
sharing it
nobody
with
else
others.
has.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And go to his YouTube. Now, what's primarily these.
So that's right there's the promo video at the top for the game you were just talking about.
Okay.
Everything else are just various they are derivatives of the skills that we teach, right? So whether it's how to use encryption, we've seen a cipher, just like we talked about, do ciphers work? Is encryption
Yeah.
real? Absolutely. I'll show you how to encrypt.
How to use a basic cipher to
Yep.
encode and decode. What's a cipher?
A cipher is a professional term for a code,
Oh, okay.
right? So when I take your name and I turn it into some kind of secret code, that's
Yeah.
that's a cipher.
That's a cipher. Okay.
Yeah. And then, we'll teach people how to build cover. We'll teach people about like knowledge versus intelligence and perception and perspective, some of the stuff we talked about today. This Operation Real Time, all those flags right there. Sometimes I run games in real time, like on Zoom from my house kind of thing. And, we'll have people sign up from all around the world. They'll compete against each other and they'll win prizes that are the digital courses that I teach.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty
And
cool.
that's Everyday Spy, which will be in the description. Go to his Facebook. There he is.
And-
Yeah, you could definitely tell you're up to something.
Scroll down a little bit. My most recent post here is actually kind of teaching people about disguise tactics, right? So, You and I.
So you might have a wig on right now.
Well, mine's real. You can see that it's real right there. But this is the kind of stuff, if you were to see these 4, if you didn't know me and you saw these 4 derivations of me over the course of, say, an hour, the chances are you would not recognize that I'm the same person. The hair covers up my forehead in the lower right-hand corner. I feature my forehead in the upper left-hand corner, completely cover it with a hat versus completely cover it with a scarf.
I might be able to catch you on 1 and 4.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not too far apart, right?
Yeah, maybe that one. The other 2, no.
Yeah,
Hell no.
The big thing
Or,
about
I'm sorry, the other 3.
the big thing about 1 and 4 is the glasses. What ends up happening naturally is you focus on glasses, if they're on the face or on the head. So if you had an instant to see me, if I was just crossing by on the sidewalk,
no.
you would notice
No.
my glasses on my face and the
Right.
lower right, and you would notice the glasses on my head.
You're right. If it was a quick glimpse, no, I wouldn't know.
And it's, I mean,
Yeah.
there are some very savvy people who will know. But if
Yeah.
I were to operate, I would operate with 2 opposites. I would like lower right and then upper right. Those are 2 opposites I would use.
And on your Facebook, you have contact at Andrew
Yep.
Bustamante and .org.
And you can
Send a
see,
message, yeah.
you can see like my social media presence is like pathetic. I love every follower I have, but my follower counts are all very low. I have not nailed down how that world works. I just produce the content I can create and then let the universe do the rest.
Yeah, I don't. I know websites, so getting into this YouTube thing, I didn't know how to really optimize it, or it's a different type of SEO. It's a whole different type of thing.
The whole game.
I hate social media. I hate it. I mean, I use it for business, but I hate it. I don't go on there, period. I don't post. It's business, period.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with it.
The only thing I like about it is that it gives me a chance to meet people where they are. Because there's a lot of people who only live on Instagram. It's like life and Instagram, life and Facebook, life and YouTube. If I want to talk to them, if I want to impart any kind of opportunity to them, I gotta go where they are.
Yeah,
I don't have to be good at it,
but you
but I gotta try.
But that's like a business thing, kind of.
Well, it's
in
a
a
bit-
way, and a friendship thing.
A personal mission thing, yeah.
But
'cause
I can't stand these people sitting on that fucking Facebook all day posting their whole. You don't know who's on the other end. That's my thing, and I don't mean fed. I mean you're posting pictures of your kids 3,000 times a week. You're doing this, you're doing that. I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm old school. I'm old school Italian. It's not fuck that shit.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make me money, stay out of my life.
I think that's fair.
All right, and then we have the Twitter. Yeah, it looked totally different there.
Totally. I mean,
Now
that's
there-
a guy I haven't
there
seen
you
that guy
go-
in like a year, man.
You haven't seen him in a year?
No.
Who's that? Who's that, Rob?
Outside of the mole and that 5 head I carry around everywhere I go.
Yeah, I want to guess that's you.
Did your wife make you do that? She said you're just too damn good looking to be going around with the CIA shit.
No, she wants me to cut my hair and get back to being real again.
All due respect.
I just talked to my kids the other day and they're
I'm
like,
just joking.
oh
right?
yeah, my kids don't want me to cut anything off.
And then there's your Instagram. This is probably your biggest. It seems like Instagram's taken off, right?
My YouTube is my biggest. Well, the podcast is my largest audience.
Yeah.
But the Instagram is probably my third. YouTube is my second. It's all about how people can learn from me, right? It's hard to teach people something on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's easy to teach them on YouTube.
It just seems like to me, with the social media that with I don't know why. What's funny is that Facebook owns Instagram. And it seems over the last 6 months, I can't tell you how many people have come in here, and they've moved over to Instagram. I don't use Facebook, right? How many people? But Facebook is Instagram.
Yeah.
You know,
it's funny.
WhatsApp that is Facebook. It's all him.
It's a good move on Zuckerberg's part, man. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I really appreciate having the chance to come out and talk. And
Why do you have a Samsung? Why not Apple? I had to ask. Man. I had to. I couldn't let you out of here.
No, it's fair, man. So I don't like Apple, and I'll give you a number of reasons. I don't like their marketing strategy. They're just lying to you. The next phone, they've already got it developed.
Yeah.
Right? They're cashing in on the fact that people don't have $600. So they're going to sell you on a model that's less sufficient than what you actually want, because they know they're going to give you what you actually want in 6 months before, and they're still holding something back. That's not a marketing model I can support. That's just bad baseball. The second reason I don't like them is because they don't cooperate with national security. National security is out there to keep Americans safe. Apple chooses selectively when to participate and when not to participate in national security. They're not putting Americans first. They're an American company. That's cool. They want to protect their sales in China. That's cool. I don't want to support somebody who's going to treat an American citizen at an equal level as a Chinese citizen.
Because they won't give the key over, even if it's a murder. They won't give it over, right?
Because of a marketing message.
Because they want to push the privacy.
Or at least that's what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee you somebody somewhere has cooperated with the U.S. government, and then they lie to us and they say that they don't. Both of those are ethics issues that I don't want to mess with. I don't want to support that. You want to support it? Go for it, right? They make a very convenient product, but I don't put convenience over security.
So is that the reason why you go with Samsung?
Yeah, because Google
Because
is
Android will...
it's wide
yeah,
open. Yeah,
yeah.
right? It's wide open. It's fair. It's transparent. We talked about it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I also, I mean, Apple used to be about design and functionality and creativity.
Jobs.
And now it's about something very different.
Well, they went to all services now.
Yeah,
It's
so
all
it's-
services, and the phones look the fucking... I mean, look, I love their computers. I can't
Mhm.
use Windows. You could you could bring out all the... Just shoot me before you give me a Windows. I
Yeah.
can't do it. So, but I understand,
Well,
you
that's
know...
that's called a switching penalty. They make it you learn one platform, so you can't use any other platform. If you understand Windows, you understand Google. If you understand Google, you understand Windows. If you understand Windows and Google, you're screwed on an Apple device, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to make the switching cost, the switching penalty, so severe that someone like you is like, I can't get off if I want to. I'm gonna have to take one of these. What's the drug?
Modafinil.
I'm gonna have to take modafinil and stay up for 5 days just to learn how to use another.
The reason
computer.
why I went to Apple initially, well, actually, I was stuck on a BlackBerry. I did not want to give that up.
Oh,
I would, that was my
Yeah.
business phone, and I had gotten an iPhone, and like an idiot, I was young and dumb. I played with it, and I was so used to the keys. I just bought it. I went
Yep.
maybe 3 miles down the road to Carrabba's, and I threw it out the window. And I just said, fuck this. I'm using the BlackBerry. I literally threw it out the window. Then later I said, fuck it, I'll try it again. And then I started to like the phone.
Mhm.
This was when Jobs was still alive.
Yep.
I think it was the 4 or the 5 or whatever it was.
4 was popular. I had a 4 too.
But the Mac, if I take any Mac, from my perspective in the work that I do, that has even 8 gigabytes of RAM versus a Windows that has 24 gigabytes of RAM, that Mac smokes that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much, in my opinion, it's so much faster, smoother. I can't do Windows. I know Windows. I liked Windows 7,
Mm-hmm.
but then when I got into the Mac, not like the blue one
big
and
one.
shit, like it's all around
the
here,
purple ones.
I can't go back. And just because of the speed, the
Mhm.
smoothness, and that M1 chip, my man.
I'm not busting
But I
their chops
understand.
at all.
But I understand from your point of view as being a CIA
Mhm.
agent, that's just something you're not going to tolerate.
Yeah.
I get it. I get that
Yeah.
100%.
I was just talking to somebody the other day about it too, because they were touting the security of Apple, and I was like, man, I give it all day. It is more secure, dollar for dollar, pound for pound, against an open source platform like an Android,
Yeah.
right? But how much does security matter when you have nothing to hide? Like, I know the U.S. government's not looking at my personal data. I want them to have it on file, because guess what? When a bomb goes off in Tampa, I want them to just do a scrub of all available open source data and see that I had nothing to do with it. I want that more than I want door-to-door police knocking on my door and
Right.
interrupting my day, right? I'm a big fan of profiling. I have no problem if somebody wants to come and profile me, right? Come, pull me over, ask me for my driver's license, ask me for my passport, take me to the station. Do your job to the maximum of your ability, because guess what you're going to find with me? I'm legal. I'm legit. Everything's good to go.
And I'm a CIA agent, bitch.
So that's just my opinion, right? My
Yeah,
experience has
I'm
been
just
that
joking.
I'm not going to stand in anybody's way if they're
Yeah.
trying to keep other Americans safe.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Mm.
For me, I've obviously I'm not a CIA agent or anything like that. So for me, it's just the ease of
Mm.
things. But if I had come from your background, I'm sure I would be the exact same way.
I mean, who knows? It's all different, man. It's all about baseline.
Yeah, that's just
Yep.
the baseline of it. But I'm surprised because I thought the FBI uses Apple now. But yeah.
I'm glad I could surprise you, man. I'm glad I still have a few surprises left.
Yeah, one last thing because I want you to come back in again.
Okay.
So Sean Rebaccini is one of guys that helps me, like a publicist type of thing.
Okay.
He says that the iPhone is made in China,
Mm-hmm.
he says that there's no way that China will do anything without getting something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the USA doesn't have the key to that Apple iPhone, but China does, because for China to do anything, they're going to get something. Do you think that that's accurate?
Absolutely. That's a matter of incentives and what we call supply chain.
So you would say that China probably has the key to every single Apple iPhone.
Everything China makes in China,
They have the key to. He was right.
everything that a former Chinese person, now turned naturalized U.S. citizen, has in the U.S. I mean, you got to understand Chinese culture, man. You don't take somebody away from the motherland that's been the motherland for 3,000 years and switch their loyalty with the issuance of a card. It doesn't happen that way. And I mean, no offense to naturalized citizens, but it's just
The way it is.
That's the way it is. Supply chain. If you take me out of my family and put me into a place where, like, if you take me out of my family and I go work for a private intelligence someplace somewhere, and I find out that there's a bomb threat in Tampa, I know I'm not supposed to tell anybody. I'm going to come take my family. We're moving out of Tampa for the week that's supposed to happen. Right?
And China has the key, but they're not going to give it to us.
No, man. Why
So
would they give it to us?
They want it to happen.
They've got the key to 30 million people, right?
Yeah, they got the key to everybody who has an iPhone.
Yep.
And they won't give it to the CIA or any of that.
Exactly right.
And
that's assuming, I mean, I don't have any evidence that says that's what happens.
Right. But you're just saying that
it's
his theory is very
sound.
Is sound.
That's
very
a supply
possible.
chain thing. It's an issue, right? Any place that your adversary can squeeze that makes you hurt, that's a supply chain issue. And
Yep.
They will squeeze it. We would squeeze it too, right? China starts wanting more wheat, we're going to squeeze it off, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to have it. You want more financial services support? We'll cut that off too, right? That's the whole world of tariffs and
Yeah, when
trade.
you think about it further, what Riboncini said, I'm sure they have the key.
Is this the same? This is your publicist, right? Your accountant's the
Yeah.
one that believes in the deep state.
Yeah. Pybus believes in the deep state. Oh no, Sean is deep stater too. Holy, don't even get him started on that one. When you meet him sometime, woo.
Yeah.
No, don't even get him started. So send me when the event is. Maybe me and Rob will come down.
Oh, that'd
and
be
I'll
sick.
No, this is interesting.
You got it, man.
And then a couple months, come back in again with an update what you're doing and just have fun.
My pleasure, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Andrew.
you, dude. It was
Learn
a
a lot.
blast.